Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. My name is Ben Hanson. Thank you for being here. I'm joined by one Kyle Hilliard.
Hello.
I'm joined by one Haley McLean.
Howdy hoody.
I'm joined by one Janet Garcia.
Hello.
And we are joined by somebody very special, Alanah Pearce, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Yay!
Glad to be here.
Yeah, not only are you on this episode, which we're very excited about, but this is the fun surprise we've been teasing for maybe way too long. Since like our Game of the Year debates, we're like, hey, we got a fun little thing coming up. Please look forward to it in the right level of hype. And it turns out that level of hype is Alanah Pearce, guest cohort Alanah Pearce. Welcome.
Happy to be here. Also, just apologies that I wasn't here last week. The city's on fire.
Yeah.
We were supposed to start this a week ago, but I had to evacuate, so
Yeah.
making up for it where we can.
Absolutely, yeah. So she'll be on throughout the month is the idea. So this is a funky thing we're trying this year. It's not going to be a constant thing. There's always going to be patches where it's just going to be us. But we're happy having 9 people in the MinnMax crew. But it's like, oh, it's fun though to have somebody else in the mix. Could we bring somebody in for 1 month? Bring them in, have them jump on the MinnMax Show podcast, have them jump on New Show Plus, maybe some other things here and there. But also, it's just fun to have like somebody new in the mix. And Alanah, I am jealous of you in 1,000 different ways. I looked up to you for a long time in the industry, but specifically, I'm jealous of you for like your perspectives. I think it's got to be so weird and fun to like get a glimpse into like another organization and just see like, what is the systems? What is the communication line? What are their meetings like? Are you a dork for that type of thing, or is it just me?
I mean, I guess a little. Like, it is interesting to see how like a different organization works, but I just came from a company that had 600 people. So like comparatively, this is like a bunch of friends who just hang out and do this for free. Like that's what it kind of feels like, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, we're paid, I guess.
Wait, we're not as big as Sony Santa Monica? Is that what you're telling us here?
Yes.
You'll
News to me.
And they don't make games
People
for
are
free
filtering
over
in and
there?
out. Quick free-to-play drop, you know?
Well, I would like to share publicly. Everybody seems to get along very well. You all seem like you're actually friends, which is great. Because I've definitely worked places where people are pretending to be friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's just because it was a guest.
Fun.
You know, like when someone comes
you
over to
being
your
nice for me?
house, you're like, you got to be very polite and pretend everything's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
We gotta behave.
Yeah, we use the
Thanksgiving dinner of MinnMax.
Yeah, we use the fine dishes when Alana's hanging
Ben
out.
is like, I swear to God, if you guys make a scene during this,
Don't embarrass
it's gonna be
me.
held to pay.
I genuinely,
Anyone
Iron
says
Fist of
one
Finance.
more negative thing about Rebirth.
I can't handle it. Alanah, for people that might not be familiar with you, do you want to give a quick rundown of who you are, where you've been, what you're doing now, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, hi, I'm Alanah. I've been in the games industry for like 12 years, I think. I started out in games media. I worked at IGN for a while. Most recently, I worked at Sony Santa Monica Studio for 4 years as a writer, and I just recently left so that I could have more flexibility with my schedule so I could spend more time with my family. And I'm now narrative director on a game called Layers Deep, which is an indie game. Wishlist it now.
Awesome. Onion Metroidvania. Is that too simplistic to put it that way?
You know, yeah. I actually, it's very inspired by Hollow Knight by virtue of the other 2 devs who are on this 3-person team. And so I really need to play Hollow Knight because anytime that we post anything, people are like, it's Onion Hollow Knight. And I'm like, what do you mean? So I really got to play Hollow Knight to figure out like what these comparisons are, how we make sure it's not just Hollow Knight. Like it's such a weird problem to walk into as somebody who's not played Hollow Knight.
Right.
Like I know, I conceptually know what it is, but I have to be like, okay, how do we differentiate that? Is it good that everybody thinks it's Hollow Knight? Is it bad? I don't know. A lot to unpack.
You can just sit back and relax and wait for Silk Song and jump in with that one. And then you'll know exactly what the whole series is about. And that's going to happen any day now because miracles happen.
Yeah, how long am I going to wait though?
I mean, look, we waited for the Switch 2, and that's what this episode's all about. So miracles can happen. The inevitable does inevitably happen. But you forgot to mention Play, Watch, Listen, one of my favorite podcasts. It's so good.
Oh yes, thank you. I have a whole ass YouTube channel where I interview people, and one of the podcasts I do on there is called Play, Watch, Listen, which is with Mike Bithell, who is an indie game director, Bithell Games, and Austin Wintry, who is a composer of video games and film and TV. And we basically just talk every week about anything from the perspective of people who make video games, which is super fun. We're doing it for 4 or 5 years now, I think. 4 years, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Like, I think in your explanation for why you're leaving Sony Santa Monica and stuff, just talking about like, I want to hopefully better communicate what life as a developer is like for the internet. Not to
we have,
simplify
like-
your whole crusade, but is that the gist of it?
That's the gist of the Play Watch Listen channel specifically. I think the games industry has a very big communication problem. In that there are like multi layers to this, but certainly one of them is the biggest commentators are YouTubers who have no game dev experience, who are then giving an audience information that is completely inaccurate. But there doesn't seem to be a good way to combat that in terms of like there's weird hostility towards developers when they try to correct these things. And I think a lot of this does come from video game publishing being so weird about marketing.
Yeah.
Like if you were working on a movie, people would know immediately and the cast would be announced and they would tell you it was delayed and nobody would really care. Video games really don't have that. I also just think there are a lot of problems around like game devs come out and say our game is going to have this and then it changes and they're seen as lying or trying to steal. But actually just games change a hell of a lot during development the whole way through. So it's usually like they were right at one period of time. And like, how do we control that flow of communication? What's the correct way to do that? If they are giving inaccurate information to people who can buy things, that's a bad thing, but they're not lying at the same time. So I'm trying to figure out means to like have more devs who know things about, really specific parts of the games industry, talk about them, where I feel like a lot of YouTubers are currently dramatically misinforming people. So that is definitely one of my goals this year, is just try to fix that communication barrier. I certainly can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
But work towards giving people accurate information rather than, just the YouTuber screaming about something that they don't know anything about.
Right. Yeah, it's awesome to have your perspective for the month of MinnMax. I'm super excited to see what this is like, where you go. And it's not like you're guaranteed to be on all content, just to be clear and all that stuff. But basically, she'll be in the rotation as much as other folks at MinnMax are in the rotation for a month, which is awesome. Hey, Kyle.
Hi. Yes.
Did you happen to catch that thing that I caught with you when Nintendo announced their new console and showed it off for the first
we
real
watched
time?
it together.
Yeah, you can watch the reaction stream on our whole damn channel. The Switch 2, Kyle, it's here. We watched that thing this morning. Haley was there. A bunch of other folks are there if you want to watch that full reaction. I guess, Janet, since you were on the reaction stream, gut reaction, Switch 2 revealed. How's it hitting you?
Did you scream?
And how
No,
loudly?
I didn't scream. I did feel it was overwhelming to just like I woke up at like 7:30, 8 a.m. and the first thing that my fiance said to me was Switch 2 trailer dropped, and I'm like, whoa! I don't look at my phone when I first wake up anymore. So it definitely was like it did feel a little monumentous in the sense that it's a reveal, but it definitely had the wind taken out of it by I think how pretty much everything leaked ahead, and it definitely was more of a tech flyby than a evoking a feeling of like how's it going to feel to encounter Switch 2 in your life, which is radically different than Switch 1. Glad to have more information. It was cool to get that Mario Kart tease as well.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to what's next now that we got this out of the way. But it does seem like, it's a Switch but bigger and hopefully better in terms of performance. But everything else remains to be seen in terms of how will this era feel different or add on to the era that came before it.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, the deflating hype from the leaks and stuff, I get it. We're in our reaction stream. People are like, how did you not know all of this information already? It's like, I was trying to I would see headlines for leaks, but I wasn't digging through. I like to have a little surprise there still. But at the same time, like, I wonder...
Any of it. Like, I knew that it was today, and I knew that things had leaked, but I hadn't seen literally any information about it.
Ooh, awesome. Okay, so what hit you
not that hard
watching
to
the
avoid.
thing?
Sorry, what was the question?
What hit you watching the thing then?
I went, oh, it looks like a Wii U gamepad.
Oh, no. Good news for Janet. She's the biggest
Justice
fan.
for the Wii U gamepad. I liked my Wii U
it-
gamepad.
Strangely comfortable to hold. You know?
It was great. I have no beef with it. Otherwise, I felt like the reveal specifically was like, it seemed very like Astrobot coded. Like I was like, oh, this feels like an Astrobot level, just the
yeah.
way it came about.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Otherwise, I have limited thoughts. Like I'm not necessarily a huge fan of we made the same thing, but slightly bigger, especially when one of the best things about the Switch is that it's so portable.
Right.
So it just gives me questions like how big is it and how much does it weigh? And I'm sure all of those are publicly available, but I have not seen them
Giving
yet 'cause I
iPhone.
only watched the trailer. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just so wild to start the trailer with them literally destroying a Nintendo Switch. Like the whole thing shattering and transforming into this thing. And it's like, Kyle, I think we're in the same camp of always rooting for Nintendo to be weirder and weirder. We're excited when they announce, Game Builder Garage or Labo, just something completely out of the blue. And so I'm excited to have a new Switch. Are you also a little deflated about the idea of like, it's cool. It's also the safest Nintendo we've seen in years and years, but they're kind of stuck. Like when it's so successful and so good, what are they supposed to do?
No, I don't feel deflated at all. Like I'm really excited because it's like so overdue, and I'm like just happy because I feel like for 3 years it's been like we're getting Switch 2 details like next month. Like it's happening. Like for years it's felt like that, and so it's like for the thing to actually exist is exciting to me. Like it's just the conversation has changed now. I'm with you guys in that, like, or maybe just Alanah. I don't know how everyone feels, but the larger like doesn't really matter to me at all. I actually prefer playing on my Switch Lite given the option. So like bigger is not really better for me, but like I am actually really excited about the implication of the Joy-Con being used as a mouse. Like I think I've seen a lot of reaction from people being like, I don't really want this. It's not gonna work as well as like a mouse on my PC,
right?
But like. I just think the idea that kids who are predominantly going to have the Switch will now have a mouse device to play games on really like makes my head turn and like makes me think about things. And I'm curious what we've seen Nintendo use a mouse, but I'm curious what like a modern sort of version of that is. And there's also things like I just keep thinking about kids and my daughter. Like kids want to play with a mouse. Right? Like,
do they?
Yeah, I think they do.
The youths
because
yearn for mice.
That's right.
I too was thinking of that construction. Yes.
I think the goal for like a certain age of player is like what they want is like the high end PC with like a keyboard and a mouse. Like that's what they watch their favorite streamers play.
Yeah.
Like they play like if you ever watched a kid play like Minecraft on an iPad, like they really want that interaction, like where you have the full control. And like the thing that I keep thinking of is like kids will be like, I can't convince my parents to buy me like a high-end PC, but I can convince them to get me a Switch 2. And this is going to be like my first chance to play Fortnite like with a mouse. Like I think
Minecraft
that could
even.
be Minecraft with a mouse, and I think that could be like I think that might be like the funny thing about my thought process on all this is like I actually don't want to play with a mouse. I am like
That's
not
why I'm so
interested
confused
in
you're
that
so
at
hung
all.
up on it. Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I don't know that I'll ever like actively go. I'm not gonna play like if they have like a twin stick shooter or something like an indie game where that like could use the mouse and they integrate that control in the Switch. I don't think I would take advantage of that, but I just like that it's like different and unique, and it's like looking at how kids interact with games, I think, and how they want to play games, and like building that option into the system. Like it's the kind of thing, if I really want to go overboard and really think about the ramifications, like I could see it influencing like a PlayStation 6 coming with a mouse or something like that.
That's wild to hear. I mean, yeah,
I could be. I've been wrong before, Ben. It has happened.
Oh, I know.
And maybe it'll be just a thing that no one takes advantage of. It'll be like HD Rumble after a year. Like no game will take advantage of it. But I don't know. I'm thinking of younger players who would be excited about having a new way to interact with a game beyond a controller.
That's super interesting because I really never would have even considered that they have preference for that. Like when I figure kids just like touchscreens, but maybe they don't because they still do suck, right? Like they're still like it's not fun to play a game on an iPad. Like if we don't like it, kids probably don't like it either. And I agree with you both about it's really fun to watch Nintendo innovate. Like I always feel like they're kind of in their own lane and they are always doing something different. And no doubt, even the Joy-Con had an impact on the DualSense. Like I feel like they do push innovation in the industry and people watch what they're doing and get inspired by it. And like if that's I would prefer that I could play mouse and keyboard easily with everything all the time, and there are definitely limits to that with the current hardware that we have. But like if that's something that succeeds for them, for sure we'll see that making waves. Maybe we'll even see, I don't know, some proper mouse integration, because I'm actually not of the camp that I'm assuming that it's going to suck. I think that Nintendo are like pretty good at making new hardware.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, so we should explain. So it's like the right Joy-Con, I believe, it has like a little optical sensor that even leaks were saying this looks like it could be a mouse. And then in the reveal trailer, all we really know is it shows them running along the surface that look kind of like mice. But like, you know, saying it.
By the way, just to be clear, like they haven't said like this is a mouse.
Right,
like,
right.
Like,
they didn't say anything.
Did this get confirmed? Okay.
Yeah.
True. They
They
didn't.
just kind of put stuff on the screen, you know? They're
The
like, I
little
don't know.
straps look like a mouse's tail, though.
Totally.
Like that's so Nintendo. I love that.
Oh, you know they're gonna have some dumb name for it too. It's gonna be like the Joy. I don't know, the joy
What was it called
slider
on
or
Super
something like that.
Nintendo? Did that have a name?
I don't know. It's a good question. But like talking about like how great it can feel. I mean, are they going to sell like little lap boards, or are you just expected to
was
ride
thinking
this
about
mouse
that.
on your leg
Bring
like a
back
weirdo?
Labo for lap boards. And I'll buy all of it.
Well, so that is an interesting wrinkle. Is like I think the mouse thing is exciting because that's the one big new thing that we know of so far. Just looking at the hardware, but at the same time, it's like the whole IR tracker from the Switch that is gone, and that was like I don't know, one of the interesting weird features they had at the launch of the Switch for something like just imagine the possibilities, and then ultimately it was
And then the Labo did, and no one else.
right. WarioWare Move It did to a less than stellar
that's
degree, just a couple of years ago and stuff. And so the interesting wrinkle is they had a big splash screen at the end of this saying like, hey, your Switch games, you can play it with this, with a couple of exceptions. And I think that just has to mean because the Joy-Cons are bigger that like the Labo won't work, so you won't be able to slide
Yeah.
into the thing, like Ring Fit Adventure, and then anything that has the IR camera, like WarioWare Move It, 1-2 Switch, like anything that would rely on that weird IR sensor is probably
I
out
was
the
just
window.
about to pick up Ring Fit Adventure again. I keep telling myself I'm gonna keep doing that. Now
It's
I
like
can't.
the hardest
oh, well.
game in the world to beat. I know like one person
know.
that beat that. Rebecca Valentine, shout out.
Wow.
You're
I
stronger
also
than
cannot beat
me.
it. It's really hard.
It's so long.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like one of the rare games where like you kind of want it to be long because it's like
True.
a fitness game.
Yeah.
Yeah, hang on, but Alanah, you're like a professional boxer, and you can't
Yeah,
beat Ring
so
Fit
I was
Adventure.
gonna say I actually played it while boxing. So like when you're training for a boxing match, you have to exercise for like 3 hours a day. And because I was still working full time, that was a nightmare. Like it was so hard to do. So I was doing Ring Fit Adventure and I was doing a ton of VR workouts. Like I use video games a lot just to make sure that I was getting that cardio in, and I never beat Ring Fit Adventure. Like it's you turn to jelly. Like it's so long. It's great though. And in their defense, you don't have to get rid of your Switch. You could still play that, and
Yep,
you could keep them around.
you can make it work.
Yeah.
So
By the way, I found a list of games that use the IR sensor.
Yeah.
Apparently in Resident Evil Revelations, you could cover it to reload.
How am I going to reload now?
How, you can't play. Revelations is unplayable.
Oh no, what are we gonna do now? We're losing recipes as we speak. Yeah, God forbid.
No, it's weird to think of like, yeah, this trailer and be like, okay, it's a pretty safe Nintendo. And I was thinking a lot about it, like, in ways, the least safe part of this is just how radically simple the messaging is. Like, no stats, no anything. If you just boil it down to what is the takeaway that Nintendo wants us to have, it's a little bit bigger.
Leave us alone.
Yes, leave us alone. Number one is all things. It's a little bit bigger. It will have Mario Kart on it. No further answers. Like that is.
I love that they called it Switch 2 and not like the new Switch Lite.
Right.
I'm glad we've gotten away from that finally.
Well, we got the backwards compatibility also. I
Yes,
think
that
a
is
big-
true.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
huge.
yeah.
True.
Yeah, they officially
Reveal.
messaged that a little bit beforehand, but the name Switch 2, I was under the impression that like this is, I know all the leaks are saying it, but that's got to be a code name. This is going to be the fun big surprise, and none of us are going to see it coming when the real name drops out there. And like we did a survey on Twitter to see how people were feeling before the announcement, and 70% of people thought it was going to be called the Switch 2. So like clearly that was seeped in enough, but still 30% of people were like, maybe not. And so it's kind of boring. At the same time, after the Wii U, like they have to make it really, really clear. And what are they going to do? Like if they call it something radically different, then it's confusing because people say it and be like, oh, it's just another Switch? I don't understand. So to say this is the Switch that you should buy now, it seems like the cleanest way they can do it, I guess.
That's what they should have called it.
Yeah, I guess
The
so.
Switch that you should buy now.
But like, it is so
Yeah,
funny.
Switch,
That
please.
Yeah. Just like how it has it even like on the controller dock. It's like everywhere. It's like the big 2. Like they really are trying to drive that home. It's fun to see.
The dock's curved now.
Yeah, funky curved
Yeah.
dock.
The rounded edges.
Beautiful.
You and Leo pointed that out too, that you thought it was odd that it had the 2 on it. But I mean, every PlayStation has it written like what it is on there.
But this is
I don't-
Nintendo. God,
Yeah, they're not supposed to
they
do
name
that,
things
man.
weird. They don't use numbers.
Yeah, the other thing that's funky
Unless
too.
it's 64. That's the
Unless
only
it's
one they're cool with.
That's interesting. That's true. Yeah, thinking about like the differences now. So the Joy-Cons a little bit bigger. They kind of slide. Well, they no longer slide on the rails, right? Using magnets.
Which I love. I
Yeah.
love that we're not sliding anymore because I slide that thing in wrong
Oh.
so much, and then it's so hard to get it back out. So no sliding, 100% pro.
No,
That
you
change.
need King Arthur to remove that thing if you slide it in the wrong Joy-Con
Literally.
slot. It's absolutely
Yeah.
impossible. But The thing that's funky is like looking at the classic kind of dog head grip that you slide the things into normally. Because they're no longer sliding in from the top, it does have like a weird flatness to it now because you're popping them in from the side. So I wonder if that groove, like that difference, is going to be really noticeable when you're actually feeling this thing in your hands. Like a little.
I also wonder how many of these are going to get broken because the thing is out and those little, because it now has things that stick out on the sides, get bent. Like I feel like that's probably
I think
a bit
it's
of a
in
disaster
the-
waiting to happen.
Yeah.
I think it's like in the slot though.
It is.
Right?
It's like this. Yeah, it like slots forward and it's like flush with it
Right.
by the looks of it. So
The people,
I mean, yeah.
life finds a way. People will figure out how to break those things.
Absolutely. Yeah. The on the idea of it supporting mice in theory, there is a new USB-C port on the top in addition to the one on the bottom now. And so maybe that is going to be, you can plug in a real mouse if you want, or you can use the funky Joy-Con mouse and rub it along your pant leg like a weirdo, I suppose. But Kyle, I'll make a bet with you right now if you're feeling bold.
All right.
And this is going out on a limb.
I made a bet this morning about the mouse with the Thorium folks.
Really? What'd you say?
Yeah. I was saying that I think that there will be an expectation of including mouse controls at a certain point, right? Like I was thinking of indie games.
Interesting.
Like, they usually have to change the controls around for Switch, for console, right?
Yeah.
But I think in general, like in 2 or 3 years, like the expectation will be like, and of course you can also play with a mouse if you want. That was, and which is I'm thinking that that was my bet, is that it will happen.
Yeah, but it's not even like it supports mouse and keyboard controls. They have to make a new not SKU, this is where we need you.
I'm just saying it's like it's an option in the menu. Like the PC version,
right,
which you can play with mouse and keyboard if you want. The Switch, there will be an expectation that the Switch will also have mouse controls, but instead of WASD, you'll use the left Joy-Con.
Right. But here's my bet. I bet that they bring Mario Artist back, like the 64 DD game, and I bet it's gonna be like a pack-in thing. Like they're gonna lean into like the precise mouse controls, and what better use for that than let's have some art pack-in thing. Let's bring Mario Artist back.
You think it'll be called that?
I think so. Or if not, like
what's the bet? Because I don't think so. I guess my bet is no, that you're wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you're right, the name will be different. It won't be called Mario Artist.
But super, super clearly the Mario Artist successor. Like it'll have Mario dressed as an artist somewhere in that software.
But won't it be Paint though? Like, isn't that the one that Americans know?
Does paint count as art to you, Ben?
I don't think paint is art. No, I put my foot down on this one.
Let's debate that.
Weirdly stubborn about it too. I don't know.
Yeah.
What were the 3DS games called? The art series, the artist series.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
My question was going to be like directly off of that. The things we've seen today, I would assume for most people are not reason to buy the Switch 2. The reason to buy the Switch 2 is, I don't know if this is broadly accepted, but that currently Switch hardware is falling behind and games are suffering as a result, and we desperately needed an update. What do you guys expect in way of launch titles, or at least like first 12 months launch titles?
I have a feeling like Mario Kart's going to be there.
That's
wise.
really brave.
Thank you. And I'll make a bet with any one of you cowards about it.
That's the only game they'll release for like 6 months.
I think
and
that's
they'll be
kind of
like,
all,
"Fine."
not literally all you need, but like, I think that is kind of.
Oh, yeah.
For like half
even
the
people
player
who-
base, that's like all
Yeah.
you need. It's crazy.
Even for like, I have to drop like hundreds of dollars to play a new Mario Kart. I've been begging to do that forever.
It is crazy to
play
have like just a guaranteed system seller, but it's the same game, just looks better every time. Like how crazy.
But the
to
crazy
get away
thing
with
that I am losing sleep about, even though I haven't slept since this announcement, is that idea that like they're showing Mario Kart and they're not even showing like, look at what we can do with this new fidelity. Like the footage they showed, I'm sure there's differences, we can get into it, but at the same time, if you squint a little bit, you could tell me that that's Mario Kart 8, which launched 2 consoles ago for Nintendo. Like what other reveal for a console has footage of a game that could be footage from a game 2 consoles previously? Like it's an awesome
And
spot that
people
they're
are still
in.
like, and I'll buy it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Two is a lot.
Yes.
Maybe, I don't know. I guess you wouldn't show that. Horizon, I mean, it looks still good, but it, is kind. I do think in their defense, not that anyone should ever defend Nintendo, so I hate that I'm defending Nintendo. I do think Mario Kart's one of the better looking games they have, though, just holistically.
Yeah, I think so. But also on the Wii U, it looked awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alanah, back to your question. I think another launch title. I feel like it's got to be almost that Mario Paint thing, something that uses an aspect of the hardware. And I don't think they'll necessarily go fidelity with that. So I feel like something that is promoting the mouse aspect.
Yeah.
If that
So
is
maybe we get
what it
something
looks
like a 1-2 switch or what was it, snipper
Yeah.
clips? Is that the name of that?
Snipper clips, yeah.
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 That would be cool. Yeah.
From the Crow Country team, though, they just wrapped up that game, so they don't got time to make another snipper clips. You
Snipper
know?
clips made Crow Country?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. That's awesome.
That's really different, yeah.
Yeah. And I heard this interview with them where they were
They've
talking
got
about.
their other game already on track, The Mermaid's Tongue or whatever.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that
Oh,
one.
that's a great name.
Huh. Yeah, I think it's probably going to be
new IP.
Just Dance.
new
Always
IP.
Just Dance.
No way,
dude.
Janet.
Yeah,
No way.
Just Dance.
Yeah, I was going to say
Well, I'm looking
something.
at what the Switch 1 had for launch
Well,
titles,
yeah.
and that was
So
one
when
of
the
the ones
Switch came
that's-
out, we got one early at IGN. So I opted to review 1-2 Switch and Just Dance because it meant that I got to play Zelda early. So there were maybe 3 of us in the office playing Zelda. So I reviewed those 2 games solely so that I could play Zelda because at the time I couldn't afford a Switch. So I played both of those for review. 1-2 Switch, great game to review because it just meant that I threw a party and just had like half of San Francisco come play 1-2 Switch for a night. It was very fun.
That sounds perfect.
Just Dance, much less fun to review, but you get the idea very quickly, just so I could finish Zelda. So I distinctly remember those 3 games were definitely launch titles. I don't know if even anything else was.
Well, Super Bomberman
I'm
R was one that I
Yeah.
remember like
Oh,
for my
that game was
Switch
spooky.
party.
Skylanders Imagine. This is from IGN's like wiki on the launch titles at the time. 2 Shovel Knights? 2 made it count, you know?
Okay.
And Fast RMX. Who could forget how we all played Fast RMX? That was like one of the greatest times
Oh,
of my
boy.
life.
That. Yeah.
The Joy-Con were like rumbling like a
Yeah.
phone hidden in a school desk. It was incredible.
No, I think what if it's just
And Arms. Yeah, you did read Arms,
Yeah.
didn't you? Sorry. Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
That great game was nuts. Arms 2.
It
Where
wasn't
is
Arms.
it? Give
Arms
the
isn't
people what they
listed
want.
here.
please, we need a desperate.
But Arms
If
was
it
very
wasn't
early.
Launch, it was very close.
It
yeah.
was
It
close.
was very
yeah.
early, yeah.
But I could see this one like I think they are beyond set with just Mario Kart. If they had no other software, honestly, for 6 months from third party or anything, I think they'd still be totally fine. But I think it's going to be Mario Kart at launch and then new Mario 3D platformer in the fall/holiday season. And I bet it's something too like there's not a full Switch 2 version of Metroid Prime 4, but if you play the Switch version of Metroid Prime 4 on here, you can use the mouse as the cursor of Metroid Prime 4, something like that.
Do you think they do the like PS5 Pro thing? That I don't recall Nintendo ever doing this of being like, and you get this game in 60 frames a second, or like, do you think that we get upgrades marketed to us for Nintendo IP?
Yeah, there were.
I don't think so. Just because looking historically,
It's not
like,
something they do.
Yeah, I
Or
would
just make a new
love-
game, and then you have to buy that game.
Yeah, I mean,
True.
they would sooner do that with Tears of the Kingdom than be like, and by the way, if you
And
play
I'd buy
on-
it.
I'm
Yeah.
I
with
didn't
you.
finish it yet,
Yeah.
so I might as well just buy it.
No, it is true. Like there are rumors about upscaling and stuff that might be involved in the tech here, but at the same time, that'd be cool. But also, if they sell you a version of Breath of the Wild running at 4K 60, it would have like a 70% attach rate again. Like I feel like everyone would buy that, despite us all proclaiming we wouldn't. And so I just feel like
It's
they're
like one of my
set.
most toxic habits is I complain about Nintendo's business practices, and yet I've bought the same game 10 times. Yeah, like
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
Can't help
Can't get away
ourselves.
from it.
I'm excited for
or-
11.
We're due for a new Pokemon end of this year as well.
Yeah.
Well,
Good call.
I mean, Legend ZA, right? Is
Arceus came out the same year as Scarlet Violet. I think they
that's a good
released
point.
Legends like to be Switch 1 and then it'll work on Switch 2 and then the new era of Pokemon starts with this new console. I could see them doing that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. But then again, did it really work out with Scarlet and Violet coming out the same year as Legends? I mean, maybe they need a
No,
little more
because Scarlet
time.
and Violet
financially.
ran like ass.
Right.
But maybe this new console with better specs could run something a bit better.
It sold
maybe
really
like-
well, though.
Yeah.
Maybe like
It's Pokemon. It's gonna sell 8 trillion copies, but
What-
it'd be
how about
nice
a
to have
version
a
like
good-looking game.
Pokemon Scarlet Violet : it works. Like that's the
I'd buy it. I would honestly buy it.
I would buy, yes, because it didn't work. Well, did they add side quests to the towns though that are interesting? Because I also would like that.
that's the
sand-
parenthetical, Janet. It's like also
Yeah.
interesting.
Fe-
fact.
Hyphen.
Featuring side quests you want to do vaguely. And I'm talking Pokemon level. Like, just let me give an orb to some old man like I normally get to do. Why isn't that in the game?
Can you
I
imagine?
love giving orbs to old men.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Someone says, he's like, find the scarf for my dead wife. I'm like, all right, sure. Yeah, I'm not doing anything.
Just something.
Something.
Yeah, something.
So they said at the end of this trailer that full Nintendo Direct is going to be happening on April 2nd. And they said the Switch 2 is releasing just 2025. But they also said that, hey, you'll get a chance to play it hands-on. We're touring the world. We're going to be in LA and Dallas and New York and the States here. And so, like, if you want to read into it, I mean, that worldwide tour of getting your hands on the Switch 2, I think the last date is in Seoul on June 1st. And so it's like, okay, does that mean that it's going to be launching maybe a little bit after that? Maybe June is going to be the go-to launch month for this thing?
What a weird time to launch a console.
I know.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Right before summer.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're even considering, because what, the New York or the US dates are at the end of April. And so I wonder if it'd be a weird thing of like, it technically launches in May and they're just still going around the world and letting people play it. Here you go, South Korea, you can go ahead and play it even though it's technically out. Like maybe it's going to be weird overlap like that. But how many dollar-a-doos are we looking at here? Sorry, Lana, I don't know if that's offensive. How much do you think it's going to cost here?
My people.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at these guesses. I'm never good at it.
It always ends up being 1,000 Canadian with tax and everything, so I'll say 1,000 Canadian.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
That's cheating because we don't understand what that means.
That you're
We'll have to just
Our
assume
real
you're
money.
right.
It's that you set everything and our dollar sucks, so it'll just and I'll pay it. Listen, I'll pay it.
I'm going
500.
390. Oh, 5. Okay.
Well, $4.99 is what I'm guessing.
The Price is Right approach. Smart.
Yeah. Well, to be optimistic, I was going to go 399. Proper American dollars.
Yeah. I'm going to be a coward and go right in between. I'll go $4.49 for the price of this thing.
Interesting.
There's no. Everyone took the good guesses.
Yeah.
What am I gonna put? $600, $200. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would go $399. I can't. There's no new number that makes any sense because all the good numbers were taken.
Yeah. All
Shouldn't
right.
have gone last.
This Switch was $299.
Right, right. And it has not changed. It has not really budged. And I bet they're going to have $70 games at the launch of this thing. They could absolutely get away with selling Mario Kart for $70. I could see them doing it.
They could and they will.
Yeah. Yep.
And we will buy it.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll stay $70 until 2035.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Isn't it weird? I think like Kit and Chris on their podcast are talking about this recently about like there was never kind of like a greatest hits branding for any of the Switch games because they just never needed to. They never needed to put those games on sale. They could still sell Breath of the Wild at full price and people would pay it happily. It's
Said
just
my
bizarre.
toxic relationship with Nintendo is the one constant in my life. At this point, it brings me comfort.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
will
good.
buy these 30-year-old games full price over and over and over again. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Haley,
Are you guys? Oh,
please.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say, are you guys just excited for Nintendo to feel like they're trying hard again with a console? Because the last couple of years, it's been like,
It's been
Echoes of
quiet.
Wisdom was fine, but it's been quiet, and it's like, I don't know, Nintendo does this thing. It's almost like a toxic relationship where they love bomb you the first couple of years and then they hang back. But I'm really excited for the love bombing phase of the Switch 2, where they're just releasing a bunch of good games again.
Yeah.
There's Zelda and
too.
Mario in the same year.
Yeah, just like all the goodies,
Yeah.
all the big ones.
Some like fun zags. Like I'd love to. The new like Captain Toad was like such a fun zag at the time when that dropped. I would love for them to revisit something like that. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. I mean, obviously I do want, and they kind of need to step up the power just because at a certain point, it gets to, even if you don't care about fidelity, like there are limits to how little you can care and still be, I think, competitive and useful. But that's what I'm mostly excited about, the software, because it's like if they're dropping a console, that means we're going to start ramping up in terms of how many big titles. Because it's been like I don't really go to my Switch anymore, and I also think in the era of the Steam Deck, it kind of lost being the indie machine. So I'm also excited to see if this new hardware will sort of revitalize the conversation around indie games and Nintendo as well. Those are the things I'm probably most excited for.
Yeah. God, UFO 50 at launch. It'd be so
Still on
perfect.
Hades too, as well.
Yeah, I think that's trickier to land, but obviously that would be the double whammy. That'd be so
That'd be
incredible. In terms of the love bomb, like, did you see that in the Mario Kart 9 footage, eagle-eyed viewers were saying Donkey Kong looks different?
He looks like his original design, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of like more black around the
interesting.
eyes. He's not really having that.
This is funny. We get so little from Nintendo that we're like, did you see in this footage that looks the same as the other footage that Donkey Kong looks different? Oh my god, they love me.
Did you guys see the front of the carts? What does that mean? Just kind of just end up going frame by
He's
frame.
changed.
But we
He's
can.
different this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know. It is weird because they just had the big Universal Parks, area built out for Donkey Kong Country and stuff. But like the fact that they're revamping Donkey Kong kind of gives me hope that like, oh, maybe Donkey Kong is going to star in a new platformer, maybe like the big 3D
Donkey Kong
platformer.
Country being re-released this week?
Yep. Yeah,
Like
it's
today,
out
right?
today.
Or is
Yeah.
Just today, yeah.
Yep.
Then probably like all of those things lining up, I would say it does mean something.
Yeah,
They
I
just
think
opened
they're-
the park in the theme park area.
Yeah,
Year of
but
Donkey Kong.
But that's the thing, like it is the year of
would be
Donkey Kong, but it's weird that if they're redesigning him, that like the park is all looking like the rare design of Donkey Kong. You know, is that park already dated when a new Donkey Kong platformer comes out this year or something? You know?
I mean, I wonder if they're gonna revamp, like more than just. I was like, after someone pointed that out, I went back and was like frame by frame, like, is Toad the same? Like trying to see. And Mario does look different. Like I didn't really notice it though until you pointed it out, Kyle. Like he looks more chibi, like cute. Squishable cheeks Mario. Yeah, like Wonder Mario more than Super Mario, kind of angle,
Right.
which I like, but they all look pretty much the same except for Donkey Kong. So that's why I'm kind of like, what? At least what we could see in that 10-second clip.
Yeah, he's getting a makeover. It's kind of a retro makeover, but it's something's happening with that boy. We just don't know what exactly.
He looks
Yeah,
like he's
Yassified
growing
him.
up.
Yeah.
Yassified Donkey Kong.
Yeah, there are rumors too that there's going to be a Switch Direct in February. That's kind of the final one for the original Switch. So mopping up stuff.
Okay, so I saw that. So when you said April, I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be February. So the April one is specifically about Switch 2. You're saying the February one would be like a separate Nintendo Direct.
I think so. So that one's going to be like
Gotcha,
probably
okay.
Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon Legends and probably Xenoblade Chronicles X. They'll probably touch on that as well. But Funky, final thoughts on Switch 2?
I hope there's a Wii Sports Resort sequel game on it.
Oh,
I'd
that's
be
your
so
jam.
excited.
Good. I mean, my big thing is that I hope that they actually really significantly step up. Like I really do feel like that quality has been lacking. So many like very good games in terms of design have been dramatically held back by the hardware. Like I really hope it is a significant upgrade and not just a little baby upgrade and a bigger screen. But
Yeah.
They're
Isn't it
very
crazy
unpredictable.
that if this had just been called Switch Pro, we'd all feel totally different. Like how
Totally.
impactful the name is that it's Switch 2 and not Switch Pro.
Yep.
well,
yep.
I guess the OLED is kind of the Switch Pro, right?
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
But even that, like it
It's not really
looks great.
pro-y
It's not-
enough,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
there
a Switch amateur.
exactly. There's the big mystery button, Hullabaloo as well, that we didn't really talk about. But there is a button that in leaks it was labeled as the C button. Here, there's no label on it. I'm sure the final build will have.
Which button is that?
So it's the one on the right below the home button. There's just a little mystery button hiding there. Oh, my light decided to explode. And so people are theorizing that maybe it has something to do with like, maybe it's going to be the communication button and something with like voice chat, something like that. Kind of funny. It was like, oh, maybe you press it and it like can stream to the TV without using the dock. Like that's still kind of the big mystery.
Like a
they have.
cast,
like a Wii,
an
yeah.
Apple Cast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was talking with Brian Shea this morning on All Things Nintendo about the potential of like pie in the sky of like getting back to dual screen gaming to a point where it's like they could even re-release 3DS and DS games on it
Oh, that'd be sweet.
as a way of
Okay.
like you can cast to the TV and still have, it's like I said, it's very much just like speculation and like wouldn't this be nice? But it's like
You
That would be
cast
cool
the
idea.
TV, and then you use
Like,
the
you extend
screen
it.
as the mouse pad.
Oh, that sounds
scratch the
awful.
hell out of
Scratch
it.
your screen.
It's just awful enough to maybe be right.
Yeah.
That sounded good. Wait, you're on to something. That would be great to be able to like go back to some of those other titles, and also like, and I'm not saying that the Wii U is like the greatest console ever, but it was nice having like the map on there sometimes, even for like less innovative use cases, like
yeah.
being able to have certain text or notes, like those integrations did feel really convenient. So this being able to do that would be really cool.
I think Zombie U is awesome. Like I still think that game was underrated. It was really really fun
Yeah, that's one that sounds
on
like,
the Wii U.
yeah, at some point I should go back and give Zombie U its due, because I love that it had like a subset of people who were like all about it. It was really cool.
Oh yeah, they were hardcore about that game. Yeah.
That's still the best place to play Wind Waker too. That game,
Yeah,
with you just have to
totally.
look down to see where you are in the ocean.
Yeah.
Game changer.
And they fixed like the pieces you had to collect or whatever. There's not like 8 million of them anymore.
There's just 3, I think now.
Yeah.
Thank God.
It's still a little too hard, but
Still annoying, but yeah.
I mean, also Mario Maker, I feel like we kind of forget like
Yeah.
how crucial
Yeah.
the touchscreen was for that, to the
True.
point where the Switch version, I feel like, kind of was like a little disappointing because you just were missing that core mechanic of letting you draw out your levels in a simple way. I mean, you
I would
could,
use the
but
mouse for that for sure.
Yeah, that could be funky. I was excited to see that some developers were tweeting about it, and Sakurai like retweeted the announcement of the Switch 2. He was like, oh, what is the Smash creator saying? What's he gonna say? So I hit the translate tweet button, and all he said was just, ooh. But I mean,
What do you think he
Sakurai,
means by that? Like,
it's unclear. Yeah, maybe that was his pitch for what it should have been called.
is it like ooh or like ooh, like a car accident? You know, like which one?
Yeah, tough to tell. And then Hideki Kamiya had this tweet. I don't know if y'all saw this, where he let out there. He says, "I hope that all the people who leak Switch 2 information / those who helped leak it will be cursed for the rest of their lives to always have poop on the soles of their shoes when they get home." So
Nintendo take it very seriously. I like accidentally sort of released the date of leaked the date of a direct. I did that by I had been given an embargo from a separate company, and that company told me this is embargoed until after the direct. And I said on a stream, "Oh, the direct's this day." I was so casual about it; it wasn't intentional, and then it made headlines. Not only did they contact my employer at the time, they also contacted people that I'm close to and said, if you work with Alanah Pearce, we don't know if we can trust you now.
Whoa.
And it was like a complete accident. I reached out and I apologized to them. I was like, I wasn't like a leaker. I didn't like tweet it. It was just a thing that I said. They take that shit so seriously that I am now like fully blacklisted by Nintendo because I accidentally leaked the data.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty brutal about it.
They actually asked me to take you out of the podcast too for this episode.
They
I hope
might.
that's okay.
We'll be like,
yeah.
get rid of her. That
Oh
one time
no,
with the
what
direct.
will we do without our one code? No, anyway. But,
I know it's like
yeah, I'm surprised by how much like not only there were leaks, but how true the leaks were. Like,
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
That sort of shocked me because Nintendo is so on it with that. So I don't know.
Alanah, I'm sure this is a whole can of worms you don't have to get into, but like, you know, when something like that happens and then everyone writes, you know, Sony employee leaks Nintendo Direct, like, you must be so thankful just to be relieved of that pressure of just people connecting you for like, you represent PlayStation because you work at Sony Santa Monica.
I always have to be very careful about it. I mean, I still am in it. I still have an NDA that I'm trying to be very careful and considerate about, obviously.
Sure.
But my big thing, what I would do recently is like, if ever talking about anything that I was worried that some journalist or YouTuber or whatever might quote as Sony employee says, I would just swear a lot through the quote. So I would be like, so this fucking, and then fucking shit, oh, bitch, tits, like all through the quote so that it was kind of unquotable. Like I would say something that I was like, this might get clipped. So I would just profanity the whole sentence. And it worked. Nobody quoted me ever again.
It's probably a good time to tell you that this is a clean show here on the MinnMax show, and so you've defiled us on this live episode of the
Nobody
podcast.
can quote that.
All right.
Get rid of the whole thing.
That's it.
My bad.
Hey, Kyle, you know what's a really good game and a really good game available on the Nintendo Switch?
Donkey Kong Country?
No, don't be
Returns?
foolish, Kyle.
don't
How
know.
dare you try to make a segue happen? 1,000 times Resist. I would argue, according to MinnMax's big Game of the Year debates, it's the second best game released in 2024. And we have codes, specifically Nintendo Switch codes, to give away to people. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can subscribe to the MinnMax Show podcast on your favorite podcast app. And we have 10 codes that we're going to randomly be giving away to people who leave a review. So subscribe to the MinnMax Show on Apple Podcasts if you like there. Leave a review, include some way to contact you, like your Blue Sky handle, Discord, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you like, and leave that review by Monday, the 20th of January. And then we're going to be randomly picking winners. So subscribe to the MinnMax Show on your favorite podcast app, and you can win a Switch code for 1,000 Times Resist. Also, Kyle, you know what I love even more than playing 1,000 Times Resist?
Donkey Kong Country Returns? I'm just going to keep throwing this out there.
Doubling down.
And you know what Donkey Kong needs? Because gorillas, they need a lot of calories, don't they, Kyle?
Yeah, everyone knows that.
And you can only get calories from lunch, as everybody knows. So that's why you need Factor meals, everybody.
Oh, the dinner ones don't count. This
No.
is news.
Those are
That's
separate
huge
things.
for me.
Yeah. So, Factor Meals, everybody. If you want some delicious food arriving right to your door that's ready in 2 minutes, you can get Factor Meals. I just had a big box of Factor arrive. Wave of relief, just to know, like, you know, if you're ever in a rush, you need a quick and easy meal, literally 2 minutes in the microwave for these meals, and they are delicious, they are good. Sorting through all of them, it's so fun. It's like, ooh, Haley, I got Thai roasted vegetable green curry as an option, sun-dried tomato chicken, creamy pesto pork chop. Which would you eat first, Haley?
Thai chicken.
Correct
Because that's
choice.
the first one you said, and I panicked and forgot the other two.
I eat Factor every week, fun fact, and I have been for like 3 years. I order my Factor meals, and the Thai chicken is delicious.
Whoa.
I love Factor. Big
Awesome.
fan.
Look at this.
They didn't tell me to say that, really. I just really like Factor.
It genuinely is good. And so
Yeah.
you can eat
I
smart
know
with
it's
Factor.
legitimate because Alanah did not swear once.
Yeah, you can quote me on that.
Jeez. You can get started at factormeals.com/minmax50 off and use code minmax50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code minmax50, number 50, off at factormeals.com/minmax50 off. How many times are they going to write this? To get 50% off 50% off plus free shipping on your first
One more
box.
time. What's the code?
I think it's MinnMax50 off, Haley.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. There's a link below if you want to check all this stuff out because it is truly great. We'd love to keep them around. So if you're looking for an easy meal, check them out. We'd appreciate it. Hey, Switch 2, very exciting. What a fun day in the industry to unpack that stuff. Some stuff that's less exciting. The current state of Ubisoft. Alana, not to point fingers, but you in particular were like, we should talk about this because this is a wild
Not to point
situation.
fingers, but Alanah, this is your fault.
A specific person requested this.
Yeah, why did you do this to Ubisoft?
Yeah, why did I do this to Ubisoft? I apologize. Yeah, I just think they're in a really interesting spot right now. And I just saw, I think it was this morning or yesterday, that Ubisoft, so I'm quoting Eurogamer here, Tencent family considering a venture with Ubisoft assets, where they are considering breaking up a bunch of Ubisoft IP and effectively distributing them, with Tencent, like, obviously highly in charge there. It's a weird era for Ubisoft. They obviously keep delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows for whatever reason. Several games that have taken way too long to come out have not been the huge hits that they maybe expected. I also think a lot of us have kind of Ubisoft fatigue in that the Avatar game was actually quite good.
Totally.
But even when I played it, I was like, it's Far Cry. I get it. I've played many Far Cries my whole life at this point. They are just a little too similar, and I think that just comes from having such big teams. Like, their dev teams are absolutely enormous. They are global. The only way they can even release the amount of games that they release is by having the studios share things, like just directly sharing things amongst each other. Star Wars Outlaws was not the success that they anticipated. Similar reason. It's not a Star Wars game anymore. You know what I mean? It's a Ubisoft game, and you kind of know what that formula is. Like, I really miss the era where we had Child of Light and Valiant Hearts. Like, that stuff was awesome. UbiArts was rad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it clearly that fatigue has finally come to hit them. Though I'd be curious, do any of you not agree with that assessment that Ubisoft fatigue is like a big part of this problem that they're having?
It is for me, at least. It really just kind of feels like different skins being attached to the same gameplay over and over. A lot of the time.
Yeah, and they're trying to shake it up. Like, I hear you on the Avatar thing, but it's like, oh, they were trying to push exploration a little bit. It wasn't as clear as I think that they're trying to push hard to get away from the ding of like, you open up a map and it's just a bunch of icons and run and get those icons. They're trying to keep your eyes in the game a little bit, but still, I think it just that
They're
reputation.
certainly trying. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to take it away from them that those dev teams, like, they definitely want to make something new and unique and different. I have no doubt that they are always trying to innovate where they can, but just by virtue of the size of the teams and the output required, they have to build off of the building blocks of the previous game, or they would take the time that it takes most AAA studios to make a game, which at this point is 8 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's the only way they can release the amount of content that they release and keep the thousands of people employed that they have employed, even though obviously they've also had layoffs. Yeah, never going to say that dev teams are lazy. It's always like, we need to get this out by this date. The only way to do that is to use the Lego that we've had from the previous game and build on top of it. So, like, I definitely think they attempt to innovate. There are things about Star Wars Outlaws that I think are actually really cool, even if that one also double hit for me as Star Wars fatigue. I was like, I don't need either of these things in my life anymore. It's way too much. But I feel like there was this era, like, probably around UbiArts, Black Flag came out as well, where they might have been my favorite publisher for a while around there.
Yeah.
Maybe the Rayman Zone in that
Yeah.
area
Those
too.
games were so
Yeah.
good. And I think it's like, it's interesting to look at, where they're at now, where they're clearly in trouble. And they delayed Shadows because they need that to be a hit, which we can talk about in a bit for sure. But like, it's fascinating because it was like the 2016, 2017 era when Vivendi had the hostile takeover push and they were trying to take over Ubisoft. And it was the Guillemot family fighting back really hard against that. Even like, don't know if you remember, but it was one of those E3s for one of those years when Vivendi was pushing hard, and they basically just had like a heartfelt, I don't know, just kind of rally at the end of their E3 press conference where like, Guillemot came out on stage and a bunch of the lead developers came out on stage and like, we're Ubisoft, we have heart, we will not go quietly into the night. It was a weird moment. And so I went to look back at some of those news stories and stuff. And so it was the whole idea of, okay, the Vivendi takeover didn't happen. Like they had a 27% stake in the company that eventually was dialed down. And part of what kind of deflated that situation was Tencent came in and bought, I think they have, about 10% of Ubisoft at that point. So somehow that helped alleviate tension at the time with the Vivendi takeover. But now with Ubisoft underwater, they lost like half their stock price in the last year. Now it seems like Tencent is going to be almost the new Vivendi in a way for getting in the mix and trying to rearrange what this company is after, of course, a lot of scandals and a lot of bad actors in Ubisoft that hopefully have been pushed out to a sufficient degree there. But it's just been a rough go for them over the last 5 years in particular.
Is this deal them going private with Tencent owning a majority, or are they staying public with Tencent owning?
So we don't know. There were rumors that was going to be an idea, is they would go private, but then that was scuttled because the Guillemots still wanted to own too much. And so from the outside, it seems like it'd be an easy take of like, yeah, you guys aren't in charge anymore. Like if we're coming in to save this company and take it private, like no way that's going to happen. And so now, like Alanah mentioned, like that story that, Bloomberg reported, I'm sure Eurogamer's talking about it, that idea of, is it going to be a weird making a new company and then...
Yeah, or like a THQ thing.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
They're in a weird spot. And like, I know that their games have not been juggernauts lately. It was really, Assassin's Creed Valhalla made like $1 billion. That was the wild success story. That was back in 2020. And going back through, it's rough. So here's some recent Ubisoft releases, like Star Wars Outlaws, which underperformed, but it's a cool game. X-Defiant, solid. They're shutting that down. Skull and Bones, disaster. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, awesome game, but did not sell.
Shut it down.
Yep. Rogue Prince of Persia, which is still in early access, but like no one's talking about that, sadly. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, which it's Avatar. They're the biggest movies of all time, and it has 2,000 Steam reviews.
Can you just ask a separate question about that real quick? I understand the Avatar movies are hugely financially successful. Is anyone like a fan?
My best friend
Avatar
Michael
fans?
That's his favorite movie, and I'm like, you're an NPC. How is that your favorite movie?
I'm just like, I know that I saw that first movie like 5 times because I have this thing where anytime anyone asks me to go to a movie theater, I will say yes because you get to hang out with people and be in their lives without having to speak.
Interesting.
And so it makes me feel like a good friend.
Of a podcast, basically.
Yeah.
I prefer if you didn't speak. And it was pretty, right? So I was like, sure, I'll go see that pretty film. Did I like it that much? No. Like it's such a weird one that I don't know who the people that are funding Avatar are, in that it doesn't surprise me that it didn't have a huge video game install base.
Right.
Even though that game was good. I liked it.
Yeah, you came to the wrong podcast, Alanah. We're
Avatar
Avatar defenders. I do like Avatar. I consider myself a big fan.
Think they're bad.
At the same time, it's like I saw Way of Water once in theaters and said that freaking ruled, and then haven't really thought about it too much since. Every once in a while, I go back.
Like,
and
do
think
people
about it.
own Avatar merch? Like, are there people walking around
Merch
with
is a good
Avatar
question.
shirts?
Yeah, are there
I think
toys
there
in
are
the
people
toy
that
aisle?
got a lot and maybe they didn't throw it away. Like because I do know when it hit like the big one that. It felt like the Pokemon Go of movies for a hot second, but I don't feel that
That's
anymore.
a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So I do think the game feels like it's much later than the big hype that
true.
Avatar did
Came
have.
too late.
I mean, at the same time, it's like it's funny because people were saying that so much in the build up to Way of Water, and I was kind of feeling that too. Of like, I just don't think there's a fan base, and I feel like at this point, we all just need to sit and nod patiently because Way of Water came out. It's like the 3rd highest grossing movie of all time. Like it feels like
I will say
Really?
the ride.
Yeah.
The ride at Disney is like the best ride I ever went on. It is very fun.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, but I was gonna bring that up because like at Disney World like a couple years ago, like that was the area that I had to drag the family to. They were like, we have to go to Pandora, and I'm like, yeah, we gotta go to Pandora.
The
ride is so
those
good.
animals.
Anyways, okay, so you're running down this real quick. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, Crew Motorfest, which also not a lot of reviews on Steam, which is all I'm using to try and get a rough idea of how well it's selling.
Oh,
right?
that game exists.
It was good. It was in Hawaii. Like I liked
What about
it.
it?
I remember you talking about that one.
I completely forgot about this. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction. Remember that?
Yeah.
Gosh.
When they tried to make the Left 4 Dead Rainbow Six game with like the goop and all that
come
stuff.
out right around COVID's like apex.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe right before that. Yeah. And then Immortals Phoenix Rising, which was again a cool game but didn't quite hit. Watch Dogs Legion, mixed, didn't quite hit.
Legion was an interesting game, I think. Like as far as
I'm like
the
a
games that we're talking
semi-Legion
about
defender
goes.
as well. But what's funny about sometimes when you come, like for me, when I come in late on a franchise, I'm like, this seemed decent. But people that have been with it from the jump are like, you have no idea how good this actually used to be. And I feel like that is kind of the sub-narrative of Ubisoft's games. Like a lot of their pillar franchises that are beloved haven't banged in a little while. There are exceptions to that, but not a lot.
No, I think you're totally right. And then, yeah, real quick, it's like they canceled the Division Heartland mobile game. They released a game called Oddballers that no one on Earth played. I'm sorry. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of
that.
Yeah, Sparks of Hope, which I love that game for that Switch Tactics game. It did not seem to get an audience. Hyperscape, the battle royale, they had to shut that down. Roller Champions, despite Leo proclaiming it's the second coming of Christ, I don't think that's catching on in a big way. Riders Republic, also in that same game.
I still have the helmet.
And then, like, on top of that, they're flailing in an interesting way. Maybe you could see it as experimenting, but like, we did a New Show Plus covering these, but they released Ubisoft Nanos years ago, which were like bite-sized little browser games. They're just quietly trying all these different formats. Like, you know, they released a battle royale for mobile called Wild Arena Survivors that, again, no one mentioned. And then most recently, they had the NFT game that was, of course, famously called Champions Tactics Grimoire Chronicles.
That can't be real. You just made that up.
100% real. They tried.
Oh my God.
They tried to launch it, and just no one cared. It's just they're in such a rough spot, and then to have all of this build to Assassin's Creed Shadows, when they're getting flack for having a historically black man in their game, and all this pressure is like on that game. I don't think I've ever seen a situation like this where it's if that game does not land with an explosive hit-like energy.
I
It's
hate
scary.
that situation for them, honestly, because it's like they're forced to fail at this point, even if the game's really decent and good. It's like, well, it's not a 10, so the company's folding. It's like, oh my
Right.
god. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Is there any other situation? Like, how can you think of anything where it's just like an entire publisher? It's like, and a big publisher is like this game or bust or 10-cent explosion. I guess is the better way to
Final
frame
Fantasy.
it. It's
That's why it's called
interesting.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, for
I'm
Square.
sure those exist. I would think that you just probably don't get told about it.
Yeah.
Just
So true.
explicitly.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
true.
Halo Infinite had a little bit of weight of that
Mm-hmm.
weight on its shoulders. I feel like where it was like, this is the last chance to prove that it's like you bought this console and have a worthy exclusive, and I don't know if it didn't. It ended up kind of being. It stumbled a bit, right? I mean, it was a hit, I guess.
It's confusing. It has the weirdest
I
legacy.
feel like if you have to add, I guess, you can't say it was a hit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
It
like
was a hit?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't
Great
hate
point.
it. Yeah, but I do think Microsoft has a bit of that, not in the same level, like, of
Yeah.
the financial aspect yet, but there is a bit of that every time there's like an Xbox exclusive, like everyone rears their head and sort of
Yeah.
just stares quietly.
Yeah.
I
They
also
did
think
talk about Starfield that way for sure.
Yep.
yeah, and I think companies like that end up in that position, also publishers specifically, struggle with like the sort of our narrative, which is built from feelings towards the games of who they are. So even when you succeed, it's like, well, that's kind of an outlier. Who you really are is this other person that I have other analytics to like back up. So I think Ubisoft faces that as well, because Prince of Persia: Lost Crown, right? Great game, but no one really attributed its greatness to the fact that it's a Ubisoft published game. It was more like, hey, did you know Ubisoft? Like, oh, it happens to be a Ubisoft game, and it sort of gets like almost removed. But like other titles, and maybe it's also just the popularity of them. It's like, oh yeah, that's like when we think Ubisoft, we think of this kind of game, and it is their like more pillar.
Open
Assassin's
world.
Creed, Watch Dogs, so yeah, that open world look.
Yeah.
And whenever they don't do that, it's not seen as like, oh, they do more. It's like, oh, well, you're kind of just doing something else that you don't normally do.
Yeah.
So that's tough too.
You're all welcome to yell at me as loudly as you want, but everybody outraged about them disbanding the Prince of Persia Lost Crown team. It's like, oh, what a travesty. I agree. That game is great. Not doubting that for a second. At the same time, it's like, what were they supposed to do? They made a great game. It did not sell. It did not land. The audience.
They take the financial hit, and they, but
they
yeah,
keep
I mean,
the band
obviously
together.
there's.
Okay, keep the band. Okay, but that's the thing. It's like they didn't shut down that studio. They just spread that team out to other places. But it's like were they supposed to keep the band together to make another 2D Metroidvania game with like a Rayman license that probably wouldn't hit either? I just feel like if you're running
because
Ubisoft,
that's what I would rather play than Assassin's Creed, and what I want is important, man.
I just feel like we're all.
I hear what you're saying.
Like we're all pretend businessmen, and then we get there and it's like, all right, what would you do? You made this awesome game, and not enough people wanted to play it, so therefore the lesson is do it again. I don't.
I don't have their YNAB open because I think also that the frustration that I feel comes from the fact that what were they like? How could they have prevented that? They made a great game. Y'all approved the idea. It's not like they made this game secret. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of where the fan frustration comes from. Obviously, yes, like it is ultimately a business, and business is not exactly uplifting humanity and art necessarily, right? Like, so that's the reality. But it's like it didn't fail because the game was bad, and I think that's where the frustration comes in. Where it's like at a certain point, like, is there not a built-in way to be able to take hits to a degree like that, so I think that's where it comes, and maybe there isn't in that, but also maybe that's a problem, right? So but I don't really know. I can't pretend to know that every giant company can have a big chunk of money ready for if they fail, right?
See,
that's probably not realistic.
Xbox can, but almost nobody else can. It's one of my least favorite things about the current state of the industry is that said this before, Reddit gets very mad at me, but it's true. The quality of the games doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter how good a game is. Like, it doesn't matter. Because things that are good don't necessarily even sell well. And things that are bad can sell incredibly well. Like, the quality of video games is currently completely irrelevant. It's just how much revenue it makes, which is why we keep seeing live service games. Like, I feel like people keep being confused with, like, well, after this failed and then Suicide Squad failed, why do we keep seeing... or Kill the Justice League. Why do we keep seeing them try live service games that keep failing? Concord, whatever. It's because the potential for revenue from those games is so much higher than it is for a single player game that can fail based on nothing.
Yeah.
So they're like, even if that gets shut down, it's effectively cheaper to make because the content comes from other players rather than from the dev team in a lot of cases. Like, they are just cheaper to make fundamentally. And it's a more appealing financial risk to make a Concord, not even market it, have it fail, than to make a game like Prince of Persia, market it a little, have it fail. It would have been probably, I don't actually know the numbers, more expensive. So they're just like, they keep trying to just do the thing that's going to print the infinite revenue. And if it doesn't work, everybody gets fired. Like, that's just the landscape that we're in right now that I very much hope bursts sooner rather than later, because it's just like, nothing is too big to fail anymore. Ubisoft used to be, they aren't anymore. Quality is effectively irrelevant. All that really matters is revenue, and that's why they just keep pushing out live service games. And I'm not even surprised that they keep trying to do that. And I wonder if, like, Assassin's Creed Shadows probably has some of the monetization that the last Assassin's Creed game I played was Origins, which had, like, you could buy crafting materials in game, I think.
Right.
Which people are not a huge fan of, but they really don't have a choice. Like, unless there is a way to monetize your players beyond the $70 or whatever that they're spending on each individual title, it's effectively a waste of money. Like, the only studio that or company that has the backup for if this thing fails, we're okay, is Xbox. And again, it's only because of Microsoft, really. The others are all like, get rid of them, and it's just awful. It's so bleak.
And even then, I mean, there were reports this week that in 2021, CEO of Microsoft was also like, maybe we just scrap this whole Xbox thing. I just feel like, even though they have the safest ground in theory, it's still like, do we want to keep trying? I don't know, is the attitude.
They have the most access, I suppose, because they were just like structurally different, but also like they are also beholden essentially to Microsoft for that reason as well. So it kind of cuts both ways in that sense.
Yeah.
And they're not immune to, I think, making those experimentations and still having, look at Hi-Fi Rush, right? It's like, it doesn't matter until, actually this time it did. Like, it's
great point. Like, that's a really good game. They said they were happy with. Still not enough. Like, nothing is enough at this point.
Yeah.
It's such a mess.
Ubisoft, everybody, run, don't walk.
Watch Dogs 2 is good.
Watch Dogs 2 rules. Rayman Legends is the best Wii U game.
Well, it's interesting. Going over the list of games.
Hold on, let's not mash those two together.
When you were going over the list of games, almost every game, one of us was like, "Oh, I really enjoyed that."
Yeah, I know.
Like, I liked Immortals Phoenix Rising. Like, that is a solid video game.
Mm-hmm.
I just, it's not even that their games are terrible. Kind of, none of them are. I don't know. I wonder if it really is Ubisoft. I guess I didn't play it, but that one seemed like a marketing disaster.
Yeah.
Is it like, did Ubisoft fatigue make us all go, oh, like, I don't know.
So-
What's the turning point?
okay.
They don't make shit games.
I think also the Ubisoft Plus thing doesn't help either, where it's like, sure, maybe again we think of the revenue that has benefits there, but a lot of people do often point to things like I think with like Prince of Persia not being on Steam, either at the jump. I don't know if it
That's
is
huge.
there now.
It is now, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that also obviously it's great to have people directly, but it sometimes you just need people at all, and I think that's also in a tricky spot. Those like subscriptions that publishers have tried to make work for themselves.
True.
They have a scaling issue, which is kind of similar to what Jason Schreier was talking about in his book that came out last year on Blizzard, right? It's like World of Warcraft blew up. Oh my God, we have so much money, and now we need to buy a bunch of servers to support our player base. Oh, we should probably hire a lot of people to run those servers. Oh, now we need more money to pay the big server people, and then you just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you get painted into a corner where it's like, yeah, they're probably still relying on engines Ubisoft has used for years and years because they need the money to pay all the employees they have to keep everything running. And live service is nice because revenue comes in more than just after release date. So let's focus on that and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, it's like, what are we doing anymore? Just making money, trying to make money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fun, very random fact that I have no idea if it's interesting to anybody, but was interesting to me when I first learned it. Video game writers notoriously say that Ubisoft has the best writing tools of any of the studios in
Interesting.
general. Yeah, so like the way that you write into engines is different depending on some writers don't do it, some writers do it. I did have to do it. The systems were a huge pain in the butt because they were basically localization tools. Can be very annoying. The Ubisoft one, I guess, is like, from what I understand, structured almost like a Word doc that then lets you port it into the engine like just very, very easily. Like it's just not at all, doesn't require a ton of technical prowess. So it's like just a weird fun fact. Ubisoft apparently the best engines to write for.
yeah,
Interesting.
I'll be damned. That's good to know. I mean, not to keep going around this horn, but you got me thinking a lot. I was thinking about like, is there just such a stank on Ubisoft open world? I'm burned out, whatever. And like, if they do have to merge with Tencent, create some new company, is it going to be like, I don't know, Facebook and Meta?
Destinkified?
Yeah, it's like where they can just say, oh, this isn't a Ubisoft open world. This is an open world made by SFW. I don't know, just random
I feel
acronym.
like it maybe doesn't matter because we know the formula. I think it's also like if we look at the open world games that have succeeded recently, obviously, I mean Elden Ring. Like that's what they're competing with now. It's almost maybe like the trend surpassed them. Like other companies making open world games are doing it in a way that people tremendously favor, and Elden Ring hugely financially successful. Even Black Myth Wukong, which is less open world but still has some Ubisofty elements. Have the trend has shifted away from the Ubisoft version of that into something different, and they kind of haven't adapted.
Yeah.
Again, not even to their own fault. It's not like they don't know this, but it's just because they have so many people. It's really, really hard to change things quickly. They're just so big.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think of. Yeah, you're totally right. Where it's like, if they changed the name, made some other new company, made open world games, like it's the same way that Horizon gets dinged. Like it's the easiest grenade to lob an open world game is like, oh, it's just kind of like some Ubisoft crap, even if it's a PlayStation game. Like you just can't avoid it at this point.
And do we really
don't
think
think you end up
Tencent's
hearing
going to
that.
swoop in and say, I'm buying this company to make better art? Like, no, they're going to come in to make money off of them. Like,
Yeah,
they're not going to make changes for that purpose.
I do think the triteness of the open world, it is part like fact, right? Just to use that term sort of loosely. Of you kind of see the design, you feel it, right? Like if just walk with me for a second.
All right, I'm walking.
But I do think there are games that have that kind of design that don't get that same ding, and even when they get that ding, it's thrown back at Ubisoft, right? It's like, oh, this feels like a Ubisoft kind of design. So I do feel like it is sort of stuck to them. I'm sure there is a world where that becomes untrue, like through if they were able to innovate in the design. Because I actually feel like there are a lot of other games that have maybe not the most interesting open world that don't get the same kind of scrutiny that a Ubisoft title might. And if they do, it's through comparison to Ubisoft, which I think still says a lot.
Yeah.
True.
Well, hey, if you want to play a samurai game before Assassin's Creed Shadows comes out, you know what a good option is, Kyle Hilliard?
Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Tripling down.
That's it. Or Onimusha, everybody, the new deepest dive that we're doing here at MinnMax, which is our game club discussion series. So we encourage everybody to play Onimusha Warlords, if you want to, I guess is a better way to put it. And we're going to have a 2-part game club discussion for that thing. That's what we were teasing recently in the Discord, and I think on last week's episode of the podcast. And so a lot of people have been screaming for us to play a retro game for the deepest dive, to create the best, most thorough discussion about this game on the internet. And so it seems like a good one, because Capcom announced that they have Onimusha Way of the Sword coming up in the future. And I've never played the first Onimusha game. I've never played any of them. Kyle, you enjoyed them and played them not that long ago, right?
Well, like I have a very soft spot for them because like my first PlayStation 2 experience was like going to a buddy's house and he had Onimusha. And we didn't have a memory card. So it was a lot of me playing like the first hour of Onimusha
Perfect.
over and over. And then when it got released for Switch 3 years ago or something
6 years ago, yeah.
The Switch One?
Finally...
You mean? I'm
Yeah.
confused.
yeah, thank
okay.
you. Anyway, I'm sorry. The Switch 1.
Thank you.
I played through it for the first time. It was kind of like it's that game that got away from me when I was young.
Totally.
I finally got to play through and finish. And I've started up 2 in the last like month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah,
Awesome.
I'm excited to revisit 1 again.
Yeah, it's going to be funky. So it's going to be Kyle and I, and then Kelsey Lewin's going to be joining, Jacob Geller, and then Michael Huber from Easy Allies. That's going to be the crew for the
That's a
deepest
good
dive on
crew.
Onimusha. Yeah, should be a lot of fun. So for the first discussion, we're collecting your comments on Patreon on January 24th. So stop about halfway through the game. I know that's coming up soon, but it's a shorter game. So how long to beat has it at 4.5 hours? I'm sure it's going to take me a hell of a
What?
lot longer than that. I know. Yeah, it's surprising.
No, I checked my clock on the Switch version that I played
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago, and I was at about 4.5 hours.
Wow.
Oh my god, I'm gonna play that game.
All right. Yeah, there we go.
I assumed it would be like 20.
Yeah, no, barely not. And so, stop when, as Kyle cryptically told us, when you see a green force field. That's the stopping point at the halfway point of the game.
That's a great
Our
way to
usual stopping
describe
point.
it.
Yeah,
I
Kyle's a
hope
help me
you'll
God.
know it when you see it.
If there's a green force field before that moment, you're so screwed, Kyle. We're
know.
going to never stop yelling at you. And hey, you know what? We thanked Factor Meals. We should also thank a big supporter of ours, I Am 8-Bit. They want everybody to know that in their wonderful online store, you can get the Persona 5 Royal Vinyl Soundtrack. 3 vinyls for the soundtrack here for Persona 5 Royal. Truly one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. You should have it as a vinyl collection in your house. Everyone needs this thing. And I Am 8-Bit is so cool. You can check out their wonderful online store to see what else they're selling. They have a ton of exclusive physical editions filled with goodies in there, a ton of amazing soundtracks on vinyl. Truly an amazing company. So check out their wonderful online store, and you can use the promo code for this month, 2 2s and 1 5, all spelled out, 2 2s and 1 5 to get 10% off of everything in their online store. 10% off of everything with 2 2s and 1 5. And you should help support I Am 8-Bit because they support the MinnMax community in a big bad way. They ship out a prize each and every week to whoever has the best question submitted on Patreon. If you support us at any tier on Patreon, you can submit a question for us, and we choose our favorite every week, and they win that prize. And so this week, Alanah, you got to help us remember the number one question. That person gets Neon White, the PS5 exclusive edition, for thanks to I Am 8-Bit of Neon White, which is a very cool
Great
game.
game.
They'll ship it right out to you. Okay, ready for these community questions?
Yeah.
Okay, head in the game. Here we go. Cathal O'Halloran writes in, and they ask, what is the worst game that you love like it's a 10 out of 10? For me, it's Sonic and the Secret Rings on Wii. Yep, truly. A 10 out of 10 game, Sonic and the Secret Rings.
Mine's Deadly Premonition.
Ooh, good one,
It's one of my
yeah.
favorite games of all time. I have a Deadly Premonition tattoo.
What?
Cool.
Yeah, big fan. You could argue that it's not a bad game. Like it's either a 0 or it's a 10. But the affection that I have for that game is enormous. It is so unique.
Is it coming from a place of loving Twin Peaks, or did you go into this without
Never
that?
even seen Twin Peaks.
Whoa.
I know.
That's
Interesting.
my wife has similar affection for it, and she is the same boat. Halfway through the game, I was like, "This is kind of like based on Twin Peaks," and she was like, "What is that?" And she adores that game. I love
In my head, Twin Peaks is the TV adaptation of Deadly Premonition. Like Deadly Premonition was first.
And then Alan
Twin
Wake
Peaks just
is the
stole.
spin-off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way,
Yeah.
R.I.P. David Lynch.
Oh
was
my
sad.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That hit hard. I was like, all right, let me check how Blue Sky's doing. I was like, oh, this is a big one for folks. Yeah, absolutely. It was nice. I don't know, that just spent so much time thinking about him with the blank check podcast series of going through his entire filmography. So it's like, you know what? I just spent dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of my life recently thinking about David Lynch. So it's kind of a sweet note, I guess, to end on. Hey, what do y'all think for the worst game that you like? Like it's a 10 out of 10.
My sister and I used to play Boogie for the Wii.
Oh yeah, I know that box
Boogie?
art. Yep.
It's like barely a dancing game because you really just have to move in the right direction that they want, and then the character goes, yeah, and like does the right dance move. Absolute trash game. We booted it up not that long ago. Just be like, remember Boogie? And then we went to my parents' place and like found it and put it in, and it's so bad, but just my nostalgia goggles are so thick for it. We were like, yeah, Boogie. I love it.
Does it star that freak on the box art? Was he like a
Yes, there's
shrimp
like
or something?
A really fat cheese string man. Yeah. What's his name?
Is he
Boogie.
supposed to be an alien or like? I was always confused about that.
Yeah, what's his deal?
He's
Who even is this guy?
He's this cool guy who just likes to boogie, and then like
Cool, yeah.
he does it on the dance floor. There was other character. We didn't really dance as the Boogie Man. Question mark. We would dance as like all the cute girls. There was lots of cute girls in Boogie.
That sounds great.
But yeah, awful game. 10 out of 10.
It is. I mean, I'm glad you have a more recent one, Alanah, because I feel like it's so easy just as a kid to be like, well, this is my 10 out of 10. And so my example is, I was thinking of what game did I like that I genuinely think is bad. And One Extreme on the PlayStation 1, very confusingly named One Extreme. This game is... It used to be called ESPN Extreme Games, and then the sequel was called 2 Extreme, and then they lost the license for ESPN, so they renamed the first game 1 Extreme, which is the only instance...
You know there's a condom brand called One Extreme? And
That's what I'm
comes up
talking about.
first?
Yeah, I love it like it's a 10 out of 10
Oh,
for a condom brand. It's
okay.
the best. So it used to be ESPN
That's not what came
condoms.
first for me, Haley. I'm just throwing that out there. Take for that. Which,
All right, showing my hand there.
mine was Merriam-Webster. You know,
You're classier than me.
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's
I'm trying.
It's a trash game, but I do love it dearly. Like, it was just racing, and like I always loved, this one racer on the luge was so fun, and you get to go up against like people racing on roller skates, and it's like weird PS1 sprites. It's rough, but delightful at the same time.
I revisited because I've been on a real Star Trek kick, a very nostalgic Star Trek kick for me, and I revisited the Super Nintendo Star Trek: The Next Generation game.
Oh yeah,
which is just indecipherable. It is like so dense and weird. It'll be like, we got to go to this planet, and you have to go through like 12 menus just to find the planet that you need to go to, and it's like, why do you guys have all this
Starfield?
extra... Yeah, right. But it's like mainly my brother, but me as his younger sibling, he beat it. And like revisiting it recently, I was like, how did we make any headway on this thing? It was like, I don't understand. But at the same time, it was such a joy to go back to it and be like, oh, I remember this music.
Totally.
I remember these screens. It was a lot of fun. But it's a terrible game.
I need some more trash. I'm sure if I thought of something, I could find like worser games than this or more bad games than this. But and not the time, but by modern standards, Jack 2.
Okay,
I
controversial.
still love
playing Jack 2.
Controversial.
But man, the pain. They're like checkpoints. I've never heard of them. It's a game that genuinely has 0 checkpoints. I thought I was going to burst into tears replaying this last year. It was so hard.
No.
It was so hard for no reason. And for modern stuff, again, not really bad. It's more like okay. But Ben, you me Lego Horizon Adventures, man.
I was thinking that same thing.
It is the time of my life, but it's like a fine game. You know, I'm not running to recommend that to people other than like, you know, a certain brand of sicko, which apparently is also you, Ben, which I'm glad to have some company on this island.
Absolutely. A ride or die for Lego Horizon Adventures. Particularly the Horizon franchise, but that Lego version, that's some good, dumb, simple game, and I love it.
Is it fundamentally different to other Lego games?
Yeah.
Or is it just a Lego game? Oh, it is?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, a whole different developer, a whole different publisher, you know? So it's like they're really shaking from the
It's
formula.
a little worse.
It is worse than a Lego game. That's the twist.
That's the thing. You know how they're not that good now? What if it was a little worse?
but
what if you
simple.
really liked what you were looking at?
Right.
And then that's where it really elevates to me.
It's just a
'cause
really-
it's a very pretty looking game.
Yeah, it's just a really simple action RPG. Like really, 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 really simple.
Yeah, have you played 5 seconds of it? You know almost all you need to know.
Play all of it.
Yeah. Mahmoud Hakim writes in and says, while there are a lot of amazing games out there, it's not all that take advantage of the medium to tell a story that cannot be presented in any other medium. What stories have used the medium to their fullest in such a way that it'd be impossible to do justice in any other medium outside of games?
Before
I was
your
going to
eyes.
post this on, that's a great pick.
Correct
I was going
choice.
to post this on Blue Sky today that, you know how that we got roguelikes, we got Souls-likes. I would like to find a genre that fits the video games that are Obra Dinn, Outer Wilds.
Yep.
I would
Yeah.
put Disco Elysium in there. I
Yeah.
would put Tunic in there. Like, I don't know what, there's got to be something that encapsulates that, the kind of game where you think you know everything and then you get to the end and you go, oh, I knew nothing. And I don't know what that genre is. But I think like Disco Elysium is such a great shout. I think it's one of the best games ever written. It is something that can only be told via video games. I actually recently just replayed The Forgotten City. I think that
love
is a
that
very
game.
video gamey narrative that I actually ended up really enjoying. And one that really stands out for me that I know is like a very cliche answer. It's not a game that I like overly love, but that I think is very smart narratively, is The Last of Us 2. The reason I say that specifically is there are moments in that game where you go, oh my God, why is it still going? Please let it be over.
Right.
And that would seem like a negative, but the characters are feeling the exact same way. And I think that is actually very powerful, that you are feeling the same emotion that whoever you are controlling is feeling at the exact same time. It's like the opposite of ludonarrative dissonance. It's like, you're like, this is such a slog, while they should also be feeling that way. And it like really makes you think about how futile how pointless their ends are, really, in a way that, yeah, I can't think of many other games that have done that. Have you mirror the emotions of the person you're playing as to a T.
I think like the oldest game that did that for me, or the first one that hit me like that, was San Andreas, because it's so fascinating. Of like, you're in Los Santos to start that game out, and it's fun, but it's also, there's a lot of gang warfare. You have to fight your territory, all this stuff. And then you get to go to other cities. It gets so much more fun. You get, airplane hangars. And then there's a part in the game where there are the riots in Los Santos. And it's like, we need to go back to Los Santos. We need to go back home. And it's just feeling of just like, I've seen a bigger world. I don't want to deal with this petty gang nonsense anymore. It's like, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Well done, Rockstar, back in 2004. You nailed it.
I think they really got a good future ahead of them.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it cliche to say Brothers Tale of Two Sons just for that ending? For like, you need to be
If The
a
Last
video
of Us Part
game.
2 isn't cliche, then,
all right,
then
good.
that works.
I'll take it. Yeah, for like the big kind of
I
emotional
haven't thought
climax
about
of
that game in a while. I love that game.
It's so good.
I never
They
played it.
remade it last year.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. But they added co-op, which does not feel like the
Oh,
point of
that
that
defeats
game.
the whole purpose.
Yeah, I would think so.
I believe
yeah.
I talked to Ferris like right after Brothers came out, and I think the quote that I was always happy to have from him, turns out he's a really quotable guy, was I would rather cut my own hands off than have you play that game like co-op. It was like something like that. I was like, Jesus, okay. But on that Brothers topic, like just the idea of like revelation, right? Like you arrive at the solution. Like Haley, I had it recently with Lorelai and the Laser Eyes.
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
a
like
good one.
that's something you can watch characters have revelations, and you can kind of put pieces together. You can watch Memento, and you can be like, oh, I see what's happening. But like in video games, I don't know. It's like a different, like it really feels personal in a way that I don't think works in other mediums. And I really love that. I would chase that feeling in video game narratives.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking about Lorelai too when I heard this question, but also like whenever games have propose to you options, and not just like in a basic kind of like say the mean thing, say the nice thing, but like the BioShock, like are you going to harvest the little sisters or not? And how that's not just a choice, it's like integrated in everything will be a lot easier if you do this, and then you're standing over her and she looks really scared and you're like, I have to do this. Oh no. It would hit so different than just watching, somebody in a movie do something messed up. You're like, that guy's gross, but when you have to do it, you're like, God, I'm a monster. I think it's fun that games can do that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Aging Poorly writes in, they say, hey, while struggling to complete the final gauntlet challenge in Astrobot by going too fast through the trickier parts, I found myself leaning as far back as I could and muttering out loud, this isn't hard. You're making it hard. This isn't hard. You're making it hard, to help myself calm down and finally beat it. Do you have a mantra or a superstition that helps when playing tough stretches of video games for yourself?
Cheat for
don't.
this. When I first started working in games media, I worked for this really small outlet that I had to review one game a week. And reviewing one game a week is like, yeah, I had to play some garbage, but also I had to get through things very quickly. And it's something that I still do now, is if you fail at something 3 times, leave for like an hour and then come back, and almost every time you'll get it, because the theory is that your subconscious is still trying to solve it while you're not actively doing it.
Huh.
It helps with puzzles as well. And I still do that. Like I'll still, if I fail at something, and maybe now it's like 5 times because I'm not trying to review a game a week, but I'll just walk away for an hour and then go back, and almost every time, first or second try, I get it. It works super well.
That's good.
Mine is the 5-minute timer. You're stuck on something, put a 5-minute timer. If you fail it, you have to stop. And if you succeed, cool, you did it. And I almost always succeed when I do the timer. It literally has, I don't think it's ever failed me, which is actually kind of scary.
Weird.
Yeah.
So you just add more pressure to yourself.
Yeah.
Well, it gives you an out though also. And it also gives you like, I think focus, even though, you know, I don't know, you could have, like a lot of times I'll be streaming when I do this too. And I'll just tell chat, I'm putting the 5-minute timer. If I can't do it, I'm going to take a break and use the restroom and come back.
Sure.
And so many times it works. And we're like, the timer did it again. So yeah, that's been so super useful.
That's good. Yeah, mine is simple, I guess, but I feel like just try muting the audio. Just change the audio in some way. Like maybe it's the music that's kind of adding too much pressure to you. You're freaking out on that front, but just try playing it on mute if you're trying to get through a really tough section to see if that changes it up.
I've done that before too.
What's the last game you did that with?
I'm trying to think. It's been a little while.
Was it Elden Ring off stream? The infamous completion
Infamous
off
off stream. Actually, it probably was Elden Ring. Yeah, it probably was. Like,
Yeah,
let me
that
just
seems like the
What do you
type
put
of
on
game
though?
you do that.
Or just silence?
silence. I put on my heavy breathing as the
I was
soundtrack to the
just
game.
hearing yourself breathe.
Yeah, it's
running
not
it back
fun.
to your own headphones. Yeah.
Put a microphone just for that.
Just to feel alive. GRN writes in and they say, "Hey, MinnMax crew, if you made your own game, which genre would you choose and why?"
Adventure game. I would love to develop adventure games.
Hell yeah.
Just
Yeah.
so
What is it? The
fun.
Nancy Drew games that you're like?
Hell
really into?
yeah, I love those. Those are other ones that are, some of them are absolute trash, but every one is a 10 out of 10 no matter what, because it's a Nancy Drew game.
Yeah.
Except for the most recent one that came out last year, because they changed everything about them. Anyways, that's
Yeah.
a whole other thing I could talk about for
Thank
20
you
minutes.
for streaming that though,
Yeah.
because it was
Of course.
interesting to watch you deal with that.
So you thinking
So
like
annoying.
old LucasArts Sierra adventure game, or you want like more just gimme series of puzzles to navigate through space?
I really like old Sierra games. I honestly go back and play those a lot. I'm trying to, ones that I've missed, like I only played Grim Fandango a year and a half ago. Like I'm trying to go back and play those kind of ones too. I just love, here's a few areas you can go into, and then this is all you have to worry about, and then just reconstructing puzzles, and this goes with this, that, you know. Lorelei is kind of like the masterclass adventure game in my mind, even though it's way more of a puzzle game. It does still have that adventure game kind of vibes, but I just love the limitations of adventure games that let you be creative development side with what you can do inside of that.
Play Grim Fandango without a guide.
Oh my, I gave up like
Okay.
after
Because
like
I played
3
that when I
hours.
was a kid, but it was like back when like
Yeah.
we only had one game because it's all you could afford. So you like brute forced. Like I was like that with Ocarina of Time. You like had to brute force your way through everything because you couldn't have more than one game.
Yeah.
And I replayed Grim Fandango when it came out on PS4, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the? These puzzles are insane. It's
Yeah.
so hard.
The
Yeah.
solutions are really illogical in that game.
Crazy.
It's just like something will work and you're like, what? Anyways, and you just keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
I love that game though. It is very good.
The vibes are great.
Yeah. So obviously I am working on a Metroidvania. I have a lot of affection for Metroidvania in general, but I think if I were to like concept and develop something, it would probably be an immersive sim. I have a game design theory that players all actually want every game to be more like immersive sims. They just maybe don't know that terminology that well. Like I really feel like when you boil it down to the things players actually care about, which is often different to what they say they care about, like that's a whole game design minefield. Immersive sim, everybody wants to feel like the thing is happening to them for them. And I think it's a really interesting challenge, especially like where writing is concerned. You know, you see the script for Baldur's Gate 3, which has various immersive sim aspects. Same as the new Kingdom Come 2. They posted the size of the script for that game. It's just anything that I can go like as hardcore as possible on an immersive sim is, I think, what I would do. Just give people like a real world to play in with as many outcomes as possible. Like even like a Wasteland inspired, you know, like that was one of the first video game worlds that I felt like I was like so lost in that it really felt real. Outside of Ocarina of Time, but definitely would go extremely hardcore immersive sim.
It's interesting to think of like the borderlands, no pun intended, between the immersive sim genre and kind of like physics sandboxes. Like I'm always trying to play games with my nephews and introduce them to new games and stuff like that. And like the biggest hit we've ever had, other than like Breath of the Wild, I suppose, just that little game, was I played Goat Simulator 3 with them recently. It was like we were melting the roof off with how much we were screaming and laughing. And it was perfect.
Old are they?
10 and 8. And it is
That's
just
about what I would have thought for that game.
yeah, but it's perfect. It's like, yeah, just give me a game that's just like a play, a sandbox. Just let me do absolutely anything. I'm fully in control. It's going to be a bunch of wacky things. It's creative for what I can combine with what. And it's like, I don't know, it makes me think of that just feeling of if you just empower players a little bit and give them that much control, like immersive sims usually do, like it's just such an explosion.
And I think it would also just be really fun to develop. There are so many challenges in making a System Shock. Like hearing the stories about the making of that game is so fascinating. And I just obviously am a writer, but I love the stories players make themselves and hearing those stories told. Like, how there's a book about EVE Online?
Okay, yeah.
Never played it, but just like hearing people talk about the adventures they've had in that game, because it facilitates them to create their own stories and their own government bodies. Like I just think that stuff is so cool. More immersive sims just across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else got one for a genre they want to tackle? Okay.
Just like a narrative.
Okay, you guys should team
just
up.
a narrative platformer. Me and Kyle, it's a little flat project. Kyle, how are you going to save the genre of platformer? Because we need you, man. We need somebody. We need some people to step to the plate.
Quadruple jump. It's time.
Whoa.
Oh my God! Do we dare?
No one
I
take
dared to fly so high.
No, in the comments, no one steal that.
Okay, done. Patrick G writes in. They say, "Hey everybody, is the Switch 2 the most hyped and talked about console launch of all time?" It's big.
I always, like, goldfish brain forget what it felt like when other game consoles came out. I just remember, like, the feel you get when you pick it up, I guess. I don't know.
It's not like the Xbox Series X PS5 year. What was that? Was that 2020?
20.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
That was nuts.
It was
That
nuts.
was huge. I feel like the Switch 2 is talked about in terms of leaks a lot, but that's just because people had information to leak. I don't think it's as big as the PS5.
Were you in Santa Monica
No one,
when that PS5 launched?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder if that added to the feeling of just like, oh, this is gonna be so huge.
Well, I my YouTube channel has never made as much money as it did that year. Like not even close. Because I had early access to the Series X. I did not have early access to the PS5 because the timing that I got that job and then started that job was like 6 months apart. And Sony was like, we can't send you one of those. That's insane. And I was like, you're right. That's true. That would be terrible. But yeah, that like just like when I made a video that I restructured my whole channel. So I took a bunch of stuff down, but I made a video showing the Xbox Series X how the auto resume, I don't remember what it's called, worked, even though you could fully unplug the console from power. Like you could just fully unplug it and then move it and auto resume would still work, even though it didn't have power. That video genuinely got millions of views. Like I feel like there was just like something about making content in a games media kind of way, even though I was just doing it on YouTube in that period of time. I've never seen anything like it. Like it was crazy.
yeah.
I go further back just because like I that PlayStation 2 era, which just it made it seem like it was this impossible product that only existed in the dreams of like people that you would talk to, and it's like it plays DVD too?
right.
Like that was like huge. And then for me, like on a personal level, I don't know that I've ever been more excited than Wii.
I think Wii
Like,
is my
truly,
answer
like,
too.
I remember I was working at GameStop, and when they delivered the sort of kiosk for like people to try like that, and I was like, they couldn't hook it up fast enough. I was just sitting there like over their shoulders, like, can I try it yet? Can I try? It looks like I can try some fishing in Zelda. Can I try that? Because like the Wii just like exploded my brain in a way that it never really ultimately like.
Still haven't recovered.
Still haven't recovered, but it also just never met the expectations that I put on.
Yeah, totally.
Of like that first video of showing people like cooking and playing drums and hiding behind their couch and shooting. Like I was just like, this is it. This is like this is going to be a genuine radical change to video games.
Sonic Switch 2 is like one of the least hyped of all time.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Certainly,
It's been demanded, but I feel like I think there's like hype versus
Inevitable.
like desired, because
Yeah.
I think Switch 1 is pretty high up there in terms of hype to me because in part because everyone was standing around being like, should we start digging Nintendo's grave now to save some time? We talked about games and the pressure of games in relation to studios or publishers. This was like Nintendo's entirety because the Wii U did so badly. It's like, how in the hell are they going to turn this around? It was insurmountable pressure and also creativity when they did deliver on it and heart in the marketing. Like it kind of had just everything going for it.
And then they
in
dropped
that
Breath of the
sense.
Wild. And
Yeah.
oh my god.
We all jumped
What a
off and then you
game.
landed on the horse and it's like, was it scripted? Was it not? Like it was just such a different,
Incredible.
a different energy that it brought to the table.
It's weird to think about that because it's like Switch 2, it has been in the headlines for feels like 4 years now, right? And so it's like the most talked about maybe for the current era. At the same time, I don't know if hype factors in right now because it's not like I can't wait to get my hands on it. Like I can imagine exactly what it's going to be like in almost
Yeah.
every way. I think I got it.
Janet is right. It's more about demand. It's that like
Yeah.
the Switch feels so old. And so it's like we need a new one, but it's not like hype feels like the wrong word for it.
But
It's
I
like
think
I really need this upgrade because these games are really starting to chug, dude.
yeah, but also I
It's
think
not
it's
like,
also a
yay.
factor of like we don't know the lineup yet. We're all going to be eating our
True.
words when they show like
True.
an awesome new Mario 3D platform.
And
It's
I
like,
hope
okay,
we do.
Yeah, I am looking forward to
It
eating
feels
all those
safe
words
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason Wojnar writes in and asks, "Hey, what's the most challenging piece of literature you've ever read?"
Oh, I picked this one because I read this recently. Hang on.
Jason chose Gravity's Rainbow, by the way, is the hardest book I read, and it was an entertaining read from start to finish.
I need to go grab the book I'm thinking of because you can see how many sticky notes I put into it to figure out what the hell was going on in
perfect.
this stupid book.
Yeah, this one was stumping me. Oh, go ahead, Alanah.
I recently read this short. It's called The Feminist. It came out in fall 2019, apparently. And it is, you can find it online really easily. It is basically an account of a like kind of insufferable male feminist who like says all the right things and is like a huge ally for women. And it's like almost from his perspective, talking about like his female friends and how he's such a performative ally. But slowly over the course of it effectively becomes an incel. And I found it really challenging because like there's such an enigma around the idea of how someone feels so rejected by society that they become an incel, right? We talk about this. It's not like it's something we don't discuss, but it made it very relatable. Like there's so many even like little micro things inside of this short that I was like, oh, I can fully understand how this can happen to someone. So definitely a challenging read. And then it's like, it's disturbing in some ways and it's very human in other ways and it's very raw in other ways, but like it really sat with me afterwards in a way that I was like, yeah, I can see how someone trying to be so performative and thinking that they're doing everything right all the time takes rejection extremely poorly when it turns out that everyone else kind of knows they're not doing it for the right reasons. Very interesting read. But yeah, it's called The Feminist. It's on n+1mag.com and you can go read it for free right now.
Sweet. There we go. Mine's boring in comparison. I was like really thinking about this, but it's like it has to be Shakespeare, of just reading Shakespeare in school and just being like, okay, pound for pound for being confused and really having to stop and try and work through every sentence. Like I don't think anything could compete with that for me. But
Hey, Shakespeare, like, sorry, Janet. I first started reading it in school and hated it and was like, this is a waste of time. It doesn't make sense. And then by the time we finished Hamlet, I was like, I've been radicalized. This is the best thing I've ever read and it's changed my life.
Me too, honestly.
I love it so much.
yeah, you just need like a little push, just a little help.
And then you're like, oh my God, the world is different.
yeah,
You really need to be reading it out loud and kind of acting it to understand what's going on. But I was gonna say, Haley, it looks like you found your book.
I did. This is George Eliot's Middlemarch. I read this for my English
That just
degree.
looks hard.
yeah, no, Haley, no,
Absolutely
But
get it
you
away.
know what? I have in here. I haven't opened this since I probably read it. I have like the tree on who's related to who and stuff because I was so confused because it'd be like
Nice.
James went over to Featherstone's house and I was like, okay, so Garth's related to the Vincies, they each had Harriet Lucy and Mrs. Featherstone.
So
like I
funny.
literally have a map because
Did you write that yourself, or did someone like make that as a resource? You printed it out?
someone found that and I just printed it
No
off. I
way,
said,
that's
thank
so
you.
funny.
But I had to read this, and then like we had a quiz on it, I remember, and I was so nervous because I knew what happened in the story, but I couldn't remember what happened to who. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, where until you're like really invested, you don't know anybody's name. And this is not as interesting as Game of Thrones. So I was like, I think Miss Featherstone like did this to her, and it was stressful. But I can't even tell you what happens in that book. They're just in England and they have drama.
Great genre.
English class
English drama.
will definitely humble you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's. I finally had to dig for it. Mine's William Faulkner's As I Lay Dying.
Okay.
I don't know how hard that actually is to read because I haven't read it in so long. I read it in high school as part of a project I was doing in my English class about unconventional narrative structure. It was one of the texts that I selected, where it's like you sort of make a kind of thing to explore. You select the text yourself, you read through the text, and then you present it to the class. And I remember telling my teacher, I don't know what happened in this book that's supposed to be part of this project. And she's like, all right, well, just talk about how you don't know what happened. I was like, all right, cool. So then I'm like, and now for this, don't really know what happened here. But, I kind of just stumbled my way through that aspect of it. But yeah, I just genuinely, I got to the end of that and I was like, where have we been? No clue. Would love to try it again and see if it's more parsable as an adult. But yeah. Didn't understand it.
There's a book that I'm really compelled by, but I feel like it's going to be challenging. But you guys ever heard of the book called The Mezzanine?
It sounds familiar.
It's all it is it's a guy walking into a building, but the book is like 500 pages because all the book is then is his internal monologue, but it's just one guy walking into one building. That's all that happens. That's for the big picture book, but it's I guess supposed to be incredible, and it's from Nicholson Baker is the author there.
I remember feeling really confused while reading The Hobbit too. I was a bit younger, but the way that he writes is kind of like, "Where are we? The woods?" Like
fantasy stuff can be tough too. Like I had a hard time reading.
What do you mean? I thought you were
Lord of the
confused by like
Rings?
the lore of the wraiths or something, but you just understand there were trees around them.
No, but they'll be
No,
like,
Haley, I 100,000% know what you're talking about because like
Thank
I
you.
would read that. I wouldn't read it to my daughter. I would read it at my daughter, and I was just like, what's happening here?
This is like a crazy thing to say, and that I'm not a huge fan of the way that Tolkien writes. In that, like,
neither.
obviously, I love those worlds and I love those movies, but man, does he describe a tree for 10 pages for some reason? And yeah, I had trouble reading The Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit's the first book that I ever finished reading. Like, I was like I'm gonna read this book, and I did it. When I don't know how old I was, but it's the first one I finished, and I think I like had to reread it multiple times.
that's a tough first book.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Absolutely.
Mine just to quickly every 3 years for like the past 10 years, I make a little more progress on Dune. It's just like,
Nice.
I've never
that.
been able to get through it. I'll restart. I'll make it further like every time. The most recent was like after watching Dune Part 2. I was like, let's do it again. Let's
This is the
pick
time.
it back up. Yeah, that's the furthest I got. But
Did the worm show up yet?
no, he the dad's still alive.
He's like
That's
700
how far
pages
I
away.
got. Yeah.
Good
yeah.
luck. Okay, Quasnarg writes in and says, hey, my Better Quest goal, we encourage people in the community to set goals for themselves, and they can write in with them, or they can jump in the Discord, and they can all hold each other accountable, all that fun stuff. So Quasnarg, there's a twist here. I'm curious where you all land on this. My Better Quest goal this year is to make more art. I find it very therapeutic to work through things by making light of them. And so I'm finishing up a documentary. Great, so far. Wonderful, okay.
I'm scared. What's gonna happen?
I'm finishing up a documentary about creating a dating profile using photoshopped images of me falling in love with myself with a wig.
Okay.
Say that again.
Where can I see it?
So he's making a documentary
available?
about creating a dating profile using photoshopped images of me falling in love with myself with a wig.
Sold.
The fact that he says documentary over like short film is the part that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around.
It's telling that he chose the word documentary.
Well, maybe they are truly in love with themselves in a wig, and this is just exploring their surprising emotions upon seeing themselves in a wig. You know what, Quasnarg, you do you, and that sounds like wonderful art. Congratulations.
I would love to know the title that they end on for that.
Yep.
But it's gonna be good.
Toke F writes in, with a sequel to Ultimate Chicken Horse announced called Ultimate Sheep Raccoon, Have you all ever ridden a motorcycle, scooter, ATV, or even a dirt bike? I assume that's a feature in the new game.
You're an ATV guy, aren't you, Ben?
Yeah, I was so excited
Yeah.
this question came up. Yeah, like this is a weird rabbit hole, but yeah, like I got a 4-wheeler. It's like, the mechanic had some old junky 4-wheeler. It was like a little Suzuki 125cc little 4-wheeler with like no shocks or anything. And I got that when I was young, and it is like, oh my God, that was like my teddy bear. It was so fun just to ride that around in the woods for my entire childhood. I remember I was really precious and weird about it. And I remember like, whenever you think of like people who are too into their cars, I just would see them like waxing their cars. So I'm like, I guess that's what you need to do. So I spent time like waxing this ATV, but it's like, it was all like plastic shell, but I would like wax it extensively. I was
You got like a cloth over your shoulder with sunglasses on.
Exactly. Yep. I'd hose it down. It was a cool scene. But I went down a weird rabbit hole today where I was like, could I buy that? How much would that old ATV cost from like this, ATV from the 80s? And it's like, oh, you know what? You can get one for like under $1,000. I was like, that is ultimate midlife crisis I was looking forward to, is getting this tiny rinky-dinky ATV and like riding that around again. But oh my God. And then we have a new Polaris now, which is fun too. But that's a big part of my life that I don't really talk about too much on
I have
gaming
a friend
podcasts.
who, right out of high school, needed a job, and so he got a job working in a remote part of Australia, basically as cleanup at a hospital for ATV accidents.
Oh no.
Like that was his whole.
Oh.
It was like 12-year-old lost a leg, and it was that for 6 months. He would go up there during the summer and he would clean the hospital, blood, limbs, all of it, and then he would leave. And they required that you attend therapy every second day because that job was so bad. And so because of those
no.
stories, I'm now like terrified of ATVs.
Oh my God.
Apparently
3-wheelers,
just
I
break them a
understand.
lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
yuck.
My brother has 2 and he loves them. Him and his wife go out ATVing. He's having like a 30-year-old midlife crisis. I guess he'll live to 60.
It's quarter life crisis.
Quarter life. Yeah, that's more hopeful thing than my brother dying at 60. But I never drive it. I'm too scared. I just like let my sister drive it, and I hold on to the back of her, like I'm taller than her. But he also had Sea-Doos for a while, but he sold those. But those also scared the crap out of me because you always have to keep moving on a Sea-Doo, otherwise it tips, which I didn't know unless you're like docking it or something. So there's a lot of seals where I live. So Alex was like, let's go out and check out the seals. And I was like, sure. So we Sea-Dooed out to the seals, and me and my partner on one Sea-Doo, and like I just slowed down so we could look at them, and we were relatively close, and then it just tipped over, and Michael and I fell in next to like 80 seals. We were just like,
my God.
oh my God. I tried to climb back on. I'm not exactly graceful either, so it was like really hard to get back on. And then I don't know, I'm just motor sport things, I'd rather just sit in a chair and watch someone else do zoomies on them. I'm like, have fun, kids. I don't know, too scared.
Did the seals swarm you like piranhas?
No, they were terrified of us and swam away.
that's
But I
much less
still,
fun.
the reason that it's scary is because we have great white sharks like crazy down here now because of all the seals.
Oh no.
So we actually go on an app tracker for great whites and check if they're nearby or like where we go swimming out in the South Shore before we go swimming because we feel nervous about it.
Damn, that's crazy.
She's
There's so many sharks.
she's in Nova Scotia, just so you know. Alanah.
Yeah.
Been there.
Well,
It's
there you
beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah, I loved it.
McGreevy writes in, they say, we all remember the world before screenshots and clips were built into gaming, right? Am I too old? Anyway, what's the best / coolest / wackiest thing you've done in a game that you have zero proof of?
It's simple, but Hang 'em High from Halo 1,
Yeah, know it well.
which had like the 1 or 2 pathways way up above.
Yeah.
Hitting someone with a sticky grenade like up there from like across the map.
Right.
It's like so impossible, and it happened like once, and I'm still coming down from how excited I was. At that moment. That
Yeah,
was,
you were hung
2003
high.
or something like that. But
Jesus.
yeah,
That's
That
perfect.
was incredible.
I have fond
I have no
memories of
idea.
like poke. Oh, sorry, Janet, you go ahead.
Oh, thanks. I was gonna say I have no idea how rare it was or not, but playing Metal Gear Solid 2, this is back when for a lot of enemy animations, if you get hit, you kind of just slouch forward or you bump against the railing in an awkward way because they just weren't designed to be more like responsive generally. But one time I shot somebody and he fell off the back railing, like he flipped over, and he screamed on the way down. And I was so blown away by that because I'd never seen a game
Yeah.
do anything that felt like so realistic, which God still remains like one of my favorite games of all time. That game is so good. I watched the opening cutscene often just to feel something.
Oh, if you really want to feel alive, that's what you need to do for sure.
I had fond memories of just like going to school and people having Pokemon stories, like, I found Mew. It's like, no, you didn't. You're lying. Like, that was always fun, but I didn't go to school and say those things. But my one I have specifically with my sister is when we would play Wii Ski, which is like the really fun Wii game where you just get to go up this chairlift and come down and ski. I don't know, something about it was so simple, but it was so fun. She wasn't home, and there was this thing we found on the left-hand side where you go into like a Yeti cave. And I was like, oh my God, a Yeti. And I was like so excited. So she came home. I was like, I found a Yeti and we ski. She's like, no, you didn't. And then I couldn't find the like hole in the fence thing where you go to show the Yeti. Like, eventually I did find it and show her. She's like, you're a liar. And I was like, no, I swear to God, it was right here. It was giving like a horror movie trying to warn somebody of danger coming. You couldn't see the Yeti.
Get out of there. There's a Yeti in that cave.
Because it does sound made up.
Oh, yeah.
That is
It does, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Jump on Everything writes in to say, hey, what's the best game series that had the worst start / first game? It's a great question. Real thinker.
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter, I think, is the correct answer because it's like Assassin's Creed, but like that game's fine, that first one, but it is Street Fighter 1 for being nigh unplayably bad and dumb.
Do I get something? Do I win?
Well, we'll see, Kyle. Fallout's interesting. The hardcore fans would beg to differ.
Yeah, I like Fallout 1. I'm a fan.
Okay. Oh, nice.
I played it on a plane. I told Tim that, and he didn't believe me. I played it on a plane, and it was, I don't remember what flight, maybe like Singapore Air or something, but like, how like planes used to have, you could like have it would be like a little controller you could spin sideways. For some reason, they had Fallout 1 fully playable, like seat back.
Weird.
Oh,
And I've never seen
this
it
was
since.
like
so
you brought
Steam
an
Deck.
iPad.
No. Like, it was
Yeah,
built
totally.
into the plane.
Oh,
That's
Wow.
so cool.
Isn't that crazy?
That's really odd.
Yeah.
It's the only thing keeping it in the air.
I think so. Yeah.
You can't get
I
rid
wonder
of
if I
it.
can find like Fallout 1 playable on planes. I'll see if I can find what plane it was.
And then that's your midlife crisis. You have to buy the back of a seat that has Fallout 1 baked into it so you can go play them.
They found a post on All Gaming that says, so you can play Fallout 1 on planes now. That's pretty awesome. Yeah,
weird.
it was, okay, yeah, I was right. It was Singapore Airlines.
Huh.
It was so wild.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Another one that's a contender, I think, is Red Dead with Revolver, right?
Oh, sure.
Oh, I thought you were going to come for Red Dead.
Oh, can you imagine that? Yeah, the first Red Dead Redemption was
Peril.
trash.
I never played Revolver, but yeah, based on just gameplay vids, I would say that's probably a good guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Witcher, maybe. Again, hardcore
Yeah,
fans
I
love
love
it.
the
but-
Witcher 1. Yeah, Witcher 3 is one of the best of all time. I love Witcher 2. Witcher is a great call.
Yeah, tricky. Okay, what do y'all like for a question of the week? Pop quiz, Alanah. Pick it. Let me remind you of some along the way to make this easy.
Go ahead.
The worst
I'm
games
just
that
picking
were...
the best question. What's the criteria?
Yeah. The question that brought the most energy to the show. What made the show better
most energy.
is, the game that we love, like a 10 out of 10. I'm
sorry. I'm gonna
Please.
give it to, because I think it was relevant. We all had things to say. The Switch launch hype question.
All right. Yeah, most hyped console of all time.
Topical.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Patrick G. You just won Neon White thanks to I'm 8-Bit.
Okay.
And now it is time for something that we like to call Get a Load of This. Hey, everybody, get a load of this. Thanks to
Kyle
Janet.
disappeared.
That was my get a load of this. It's a magic
Get a load
trick.
of that.
Okay, get a load of this, y'all. You know the song Amish Paradise by Weird Al, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all know it. We love it. Okay, you're off the hook, Alanah. I won't judge you. And then we all know, Haley, that was based on Coolio's Gangster's Paradise, right?
Mm-hmm. I actually heard Amish Paradise first and thought that was the real
really
first song.
painful to know.
Yes.
I hate
I'm
that
really
you shared
sorry.
that with me.
I'm sorry.
I think most people are in that camp. Did you know that Gangster's Paradise is based on a song?
No.
Janet, you should, because you recommended...
Sample?
Based on the life of Coolio.
No.
Like you mean like the Stevie Wonder sample?
Beyond sample. So yeah, that's the thing is, Janet, you recommend I listen to Stevie Wonder's album Songs in the Key of Life. Fantastic. I've listened to it a bunch. I thoroughly
hell
enjoyed
yeah.
it. But I was driving listening to it like, what is going on when I listened to this song from 1976, Pastime Paradise? Because it is just exactly Gangster's Paradise. Like, Gangster's Paradise is as much a riff on Pastime Paradise as Amish is on Gangster. It is just like direct line, and it's the best of the trilogy, the Paradise trilogy. It's just wild. Like I didn't know Coolio was just doing like a parody almost of Pastime Paradise. It's really weird, but thanks
Is
for
that why
the...
he got so mad at Weird Al about it? Because he was like, "You're like double ripping me off."
Could be.
It's like the one contentious Weird Al cover, right? Is Coolio?
I didn't know he actually got pissed about it.
Yeah, he was not happy about it.
Oh, I'll be damned. Who's got one? Jump on in.
Hey.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, get a load of this. I ran away because I wanted to grab this. My daughter bought me
Ooh.
this for Christmas. It's
Ooh.
the Elden Ring manga, which
Oh.
I was like, oh, you know, I find the story of Elden Ring so dense and inscrutable that it would be fun to just read it, right?
Uh-huh.
But this is a parody. This is
Oh.
a comedic Elden Ring manga that is official. Yeah, like it's which I
makes fun
did.
of it?
Yeah, and it's like it's so strange because it's like lore correct, but it's like almost like you're following just some absurd player who's trying to be like the most ridiculous. Yeah, like it's I the first couple pages like give the backstory, and then it's like chapter 1, you thought this would be serious, didn't you? And it's just like this guy just like naked on the ground, and it's almost like watching. It would be like watching Spaceballs, except they had the cast of Star Wars like
Right.
in the movie or something. Like it's
Weird.
so not what I expected at all.
Whoa.
It's very weird.
Huh.
Is it helping you remember the lore better at least?
No, not at all. It's like it's just like
Naughty or nothing.
yeah. But it's so strange and just not what I would have ever in a million years expected someone to do with the Elden Ring
Yeah.
license.
That's
It's like yeah, let's make a
interesting.
parody manga.
Love it.
So very weird. Get a load of that.
That's cool.
Do I have to say, hey, get a load of this? Is that the rules?
Yeah, you can put your own spin
It's
on it.
required.
Yeah.
Hey,
Ben
get a load of
gets
this.
really mad if you don't.
Nintendo will come after
Again?
you again.
I have a bunch of friends who work in film, and over the entirety of 2024, we did film screening series. So the first one was for every Terrence Malick film,
Yeah.
of which I had seen none, which was fascinating, but like just a real decline. Those movies get terrible, depending on who you ask, I guess. But Tree of Life is like one of the best things I've ever seen, and I really liked Thin Red Line. The second one was Sergio Leone. So I just watched every Sergio Leone film
That's
that he had
awesome.
ever made, and that was a really, really fun one to screen. So we just like have a movie night at a friend's home cinema like once every like week or every 2 weeks or whatever. And the Sergio Leone ones were awesome because you're watching him get better and better and better every time. The last movie is almost 4 hours long and is just a really, really interesting story. It's Once Upon a Time in America. I thought it was a fantastic film. But when it originally came out, the studio cut it down so much that it had a terrible reception. People said it was Sergio Leone's worst film, like it was absolute trash, it didn't make sense to anyone. And he actually died before they released the original cut.
Oh,
so like
no.
and it's now lauded as like one of the best films ever made. I totally agree. Like I was so daunted being like, we're watching this 4-hour film, sat down, and I could have watched it for 8 hours. Like I thought it was fantastic. And yeah, so it's had this like resurgence or like re-review kind of cycle now where people recognize it for what it is for the movie that he actually made, which didn't come out originally. I think it might have been Warner that released the edited version. But yeah, I'd highly recommend it. Frankly, recommend every single Sergio Leone movie, not every single Terrence Malick film. But watching them from start to finish is like definitely one of the most fun things that I did last year because you really do watch him get better and better and better. And there are so many like Sergio Leone clearly really loves a close shot of somebody who has bright blue eyes. Like you see it all the time. It's like it's why he kept working with Clint Eastwood for sure, is you just see these really like close in cuts where like these cowboys, and obviously most of his films are westerns, just feel huge on a screen. Like they're so big.
Yeah.
It was really, really fun, and I highly recommend going through them, even if you aren't a western person, because they do get better and better and better every time.
That's sweet.
I hope ghosts are real so he can know that people like his
just
last
so he
movie.
knows that his movie's actually really good.
Yeah, but
that's
then,
sad.
But then Tolkien's
It's
going to listen to this podcast, Haley, and then just imagine how pissed he'll be. So-
He
You
knows
don't
what
need
he
to
did.
describe the trees for so long, dude. I get it. I've
We
seen
get it.
one.
They're climbing into some barrels. Stop talking about what finished the oak of the wood is. Like,
And they all have like basically the same name, so it's like,
Yes.
It is weird, by the way, that like it's a secret banger way to frame your film with the title Once Upon a Time, right? Because Once Upon a Time in America is great, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is great.
Hollywood.
Maybe divisive, but I think Once Upon a Time in Mexico, the Robert Rodriguez movie, is an awesome old action movie. It's weird that it's just batting 1,000 for Once Upon a Time movies.
Well, yeah, Once Upon a Time in America is also sort of the movie he made before that was Once Upon a Time in the West.
Right,
which is also very good.
Look at that.
Yeah, maybe it's just you make a movie with that title and it's just great. That's all you need.
That's right. That's what that person should name their documentary. Once Upon a Time,
Once
photoshopping
Upon a Time,
images.
Where I dated myself. Photoshop-wise on a dating. Again, I'm down to watch it.
Yeah, all right. We got that, Alanah. We got it.
Yeah, you can put it in your screening series. It'll be great.
All right, Haley, you want to jump in?
Sure. Get a load of this. So I'm really into Pokemon cards. I've already talked about this on multiple different podcasts. So anyways, but my partner and I are kind of bummed because it's very much like we're coming at it at the worst time where everything's really expensive and everyone cares about the new hotness. So we're like, we don't care about the new hotness. And we decided we're just going to try to get a living dex of every Pokemon. Like, so if that way, every time we open a pack, we're like, a Skitty! We're like, yippee! Because we don't have that one yet, so it makes it more fun. But I ordered a binder online to keep it all in. It's called the Beast Binder, and it came.
Oh, no.
It's the biggest thing.
What the hell?
It's called the Beast Binder.
It could crush a man.
It has
It's a PlayStation 5.
Oh.
Oh, no, it's a binder. Okay.
It does look like a PS5.
Yeah.
It has 1,200 slots.
Whoa.
So it can hold, and there's currently 1,025 Pokemon. So it has enough room, plus enough extra for if they have another generation.
Oh, my God.
So right now we're
Holy
just
cow.
trying to get as many
Were you
reverse
trying to get
hollows and hollows.
Oh, I was gonna say you're trying to get one of every Pokemon, but it doesn't matter like what generation from.
No, yeah, like just as long as it's them on a card
And it's
they're
hollow?
on there. We're trying to go for eventually everything hollow would be kind of fun because then you don't need like the special ones that actually cost real money that people sell for like hundreds of dollars. So that would be fun to have them all be hollow, but we're about to start sticking in the commons and the basic ones.
Yucko.
But I don't know, it's been really fun. It's made every pack fun. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
been
that's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
sweet.
I can't wait to see how long it takes you to finish it.
multiple years probably.
That's gonna be really cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy. Janet?
Get a load of this. I have a little article here titled "Helping Her Peers: Altadina's Teens Recovery Fund Takes Off." It's just a cool story that I initially came across on social, and I just looked for an article on it of this. Altadena, for those who don't know, it's an area in the Los Angeles County that was heavily affected by one of the fires, the Eaton Fire. Altadena, you may have heard of Pasadena. They're right next to each other. And she started this sort of organization effort to help like teen girls feel like themselves again, like after losing all their stuff, like all their clothes and like makeup and just other things that, you know, sort of comforts to their identities. And this was started by also a teenage girl. She's 14 years old and made this, and it's gotten like all this great press, and all these like big brands and celebrities have donated like things to this effort. So it's just really impressive. Really, whenever anyone does anything like this, but especially like a teen, I think it's just so cool. So
Sweet. Links below for all this
Hell
fun stuff. Included one from the community in the Discord. If you support us at any tier on Patreon, you get access to the Discord, which is just lovely. And there's a get a load of this channel where people share fun stuff each and every day. Awesome Games Done Quick just wrapped up. It was so great. I watched a couple of those runs, like both Zelda runs and the Rebirth run and stuff like that. But they did a run of Crazy Taxi, which is tricky because there's a lot of Offspring music in Crazy Taxi. And so it's like, well, we'll just get nuked off of YouTube. So what are we going to do? So Spencer P in the MinnMax Discord, he shared this link where it's their stream where they're playing Crazy Taxi. And their way to get around that is they had an entire cover band play live as the person was doing the Crazy Taxi speed run. So they would sing the Offspring music live and it wouldn't get taken down then. And the best part is it's a speed run, so they're going fast. And so the second they finish any level, the band just like whoop, and they just like stop the song no matter where they are. They try and like sync it up with the sound effects and everything in the game. So it's just really fun to see this band just
so
going
cool.
10 out of 10 with an Offspring cover, and then like suddenly everybody stands still. It's fun.
Awesome.
Links below. Check it out. But hey, that is it for this episode of the MinnMax Show. We have some stuff coming up here at MinnMax you can check out. First things first, Trivia Tower returns, everybody. Michael Huber from Easy Allies is going to be hosting the next episode of Trivia Tower. Alanah was a guest on Trivia Tower not that long ago. But Huber's hosting the next one, which is coming up this Tuesday. So on the 21st of January, you can jump in and compete in video game trivia. You can jump in if you're at the even $2 tier on Patreon. You can jump in and compete to win a bunch of game codes, including codes for Airborne Empire, which is a brand new game from the Wandering Band, the sequel to Airborne Kingdom, which is quite cool. And then also the last person standing wins an Astro A50X headset, which is worth hundreds. So jump in and try to win, everybody. And the co-host this time around is Victor Lucas from Electric Playground, who's going to be joining Huber on this episode. So jump in, check it out, please. Also, check out what the MinnMax community made. We had a game jam not too long ago in the Discord, and the community did such an amazing job. Every year I'm blown away, and still, Haley, we should just know that this is going to be good. And still every year I'm like, God damn, these are really good games, everybody.
Like, genuinely, they just need funding, and those could be on the Switch too next year.
Yeah, somebody made like a Balatro style game, but Balatro meets tower defense. It's like, yeah, it works so well. It's really good.
Yeah.
So we played them all on MinnMax's YouTube channel. You can check out Kelsey and Haley and I playing them, including somebody made an entire parody of the Beginner's Guide, but it's all MinnMax themed. Somebody made an interactive DVD game, but it's them doing Trivia Tower by using clips of me talking, and then also like Leo playing baseball from when we played baseball.